Welcome back, guys. This is the King of Weebs here, and this is what if Naruto was neglected by everybody and became the strongest. What happens when Naruto has all he's ever wanted, a family, parents, siblings, and yet he still doesn't? Witness a young shinobi armed with incredible potential as he sets out to find the truth and serve justice for the murderer of his late teacher's family, while pondering the meaning of his own existence. A lion is born. Naruto can use wood style. This is a neglected fanfiction, and Naruto will have a family here. Anyways, let's get straight into it, and don't forget to go support the creator, who is called East Side the 13th, and this is a 19 chapter fanfiction, and it's still being updated, I believe so. The latest has been November 13th of last year, but that's quite recent compared to some OS I know. And anyways, now fanfictions are not OS. Anyways, my ducklings, let's get straight into this. I'm losing all English, and let's go.
Chapter 1. Prologue. The date is October 10th, and it is an autumn evening in the village hidden in the leaves. A figure stands atop the Hokage monument. He is wearing blue shinobi pants, tape on his legs, and blue shinobi sandals. He is also wearing a matching top with baggy long sleeves. Over this he is wearing a white ankle-length, short-sleeved cloak with a red flame motif design along the bottom that is moving in the wind. He has shaggy blonde hair with sideburns that frame his heart-shaped face. He is also wearing a hidden leaf headband which is keeping his bangs back. This is none other than the fourth Hokage, Minato Namikaze, the man known and feared throughout the entire shinobi world as the Yellow Flash. Armed with his flying Raijin Jutsu, many believed him to be the fastest shinobi who ever lived, with the fourth Raikage being the only person who could rival him in this respect. Minato was reported to have single-handedly faced and killed 10,000 hidden stone shinobi at the Battle of Kanabi Bridge and ended the Third Shinobi World War. Minato is standing on his stone head on the Hokage monument overlooking a scene of absolute chaos. Smoke is rising into the sky and smothering the light of the full moon and the stars. Screams of fear can be heard clearly, even from where he is. A giant creature with red fur, crimson bloodthirsty eyes and 9 swinging tails can be seen below, destroying the hidden leaf, with shinobi desperately trying to stop it and failing. The 9-tailed fox, the most powerful of all the 9-tailed beasts. Legend had it could level mountains and raise tsunamis with a swing of its tails. Right now it was proving its legend to have some truth to it. Minato is thinking about the events that led to this very moment. It all began with the pregnancy. 9 months ago he and Kushina had found out she was pregnant with quadruplets. They were ecstatic. The two were in disbelief over how they were going to be parents. However, there was a slight issue. Kushina's seal. Kushina was the Jinchuriki of the 9-tailed fox. In a Jinchuriki's life there was one time where the seal holding her tailed beast weakened considerably. This was during childbirth. The chakra usually used for maintaining the seal was directed towards the maintenance of the fetus, or in Kushina's case fetuses. Thus when the third found out, he demanded the matter be handled with the utmost secrecy. And that was what was done. The pregnancy was kept a secret. When the time came, the children were to be delivered in a secret location with a barrier erected and the Anbu Black Ops, who were part of the third security detail, on guard. The deliveries were a success. Naruto, their firstborn son, had come first. He had tufts of blonde hair atop his head and whisker-like markings on his cheeks. An hour later their first daughter was born. She had been named Inta. She had Kushina's red hair. Not long after this their second son came. Menma had tufts of black and red hair atop his head. Just 15 minutes after this, Yayoi, their youngest and second daughter, was welcomed into the world. She had Minato's blonde hair, only it was a shade lighter. It was only then it really sunk in. He had really become a father. Just as he was about to rebuild the seal, he turned around to see Bawako and the other midwife drop to the ground dead. A cloaked hooded man wearing an orange mask with a tiger stripe-like design with one eye hole and the fully developed 3 Tomoe Sharingan of the Uchiha visible through it was standing there with a kunai in hand in front of the cradle that held the children. He told him to step away from Kushina or they would die. Minato didn't know what to do, and the man attempted to follow through on his promise. Minato saved the children, but he had been forced to use his teleportation jutsu and left Kushina in the hands of the enemy, whose plan he realized was to separate them from the beginning. He used the flying Raijin seal that he had incorporated into her seal to get to her, but he was too late. The masked man had ripped the 9 tails out of her body, and she informed him of his intention to use it to destroy the village. Minato was devastated. He knew the consequences of a tailed beast being ripped from its Jinchuriki's body like that. Of course, the masked man had infiltrated the village and summoned the 9 tails right in the middle of it. That was all that led to the current situation. Minato inhales and exhales deeply. He had already found Tsunade and taken her to Kushina's location. He hoped that, by some miracle, she would be able to save her. "I've allowed myself enough selfishness," he says internally. "It's time to protect the village." Meanwhile, below, the 9 tails must have sensed his presence, because the fox turned its head and looked straight at the Hokage monument. It opens its mouth, revealing its fangs. Small balls of blue and red chakra begin to form and converge on the spot at its mouth until a giant purple ball of chakra has formed. The Tailed Beast Bomb, an attack only a tailed beast is capable of. One that could destroy entire armies and leave a scar upon the very face of the earth in a second. The 9 tails takes aim before releasing the bomb, sending it flying at the Hokage monument. "You won't have to your way here," he defiantly declares. He begins weaving through hand signs before shouting, "Flying Raijin, guiding thunder jutsu." A complex sealing formula appears in the air in front of the monument. When the bomb reaches its momentum stops, it begins to sink into the sealing array until it can't be seen. Minato then holds up a flying Raijin kunai and an explosion is seen in the distance. Minato has no time to examine his handiwork. He whips around, a kunai in hand, in an attempt to behead the masked man who had tried to sneak up on him. His attack goes right through the man as if he isn't there. When his hand comes out on the other side, the man grabs his wrist. A swirling distortion formed in the air, with the masked man's only visible eye being the epicenter. Minato suddenly sees himself being pulled into the man. Acting fast, he activates the flying Raijin. Minato finds himself laying on the ground next to one of his kunai in front of another one of his safe houses, this being the one destroyed earlier. "My attack slipped through him as if he wasn't even there," he thought, getting up. The same distortion from before appears, and out of it the masked man materializes. "So he can use space-time ninjutsu as well," assessed Minato. Minato begins to analyze the situation. Single quote. "Why did you attack the leaf?" he questions. The masked man simply stares at Minato. "I could say I did it on a whim, and I could say I did it for a purpose. I could say I did it for peace, and I could say I did it for war." Minato begins to assess the situation. He was able to get past a top-secret barrier, kill all the Anbu Black Ops on guard who were assigned to the 3rd security detail, and he knew about the seal weakening during childbirth. He was also able to break the it, tame the 9 tails, and get past the hidden leaf's main barrier undetected. Could it be? Are you Madara Uchiha? No, it's impossible. He's dead. "I wonder about that," replied the masked man, taking out what appeared to be a pair of shackles and putting them on. "Well, I guess it doesn't matter who he is. He's still not an ordinary shinobi. His space-time ninjutsu surpasses mine and Lord Seconds, and he's got dangerous ideology. I'll have to take him down here and now, or he'll cause problems in the future," Minato internally said. The two run at each other. Minato attempts to stab his opponent, only for his attack to pass right through him. When he passes through him, Madara uses the chain of his shackles to stop Minato and bind him. Minato quickly disappears and reappears kneeling next to one of his kunai. He's trying to use that chain as an effective method of attack for whenever he materializes, which is the only time he can attack. He can pull objects in, but only when touching them. With the 9 tails summoning time limit on his mind, he'll want to end this as quick as possible. He gets up and the two run at one another again, Minato with a flying Raijin kunai in hand. Whoever is faster wins this battle. Minato throws his kunai at the masked ninja, and like before, it goes through him. A Rasengan suddenly forms in his right hand while the enemy is using his to try to touch Minato's left shoulder and end the battle. It looks as if the masked man has the upper hand. His hand is less than a millisecond away from touching Minato. IW, and he internally voices. Minato appears above the enemy, the kunai he threw in hand. He brings his Rasengan down, drilling it into the masked man's back, causing cracks to form in the ground and dirt to be kicked up. He teleported himself to his kunai. When Minato's Rasengan dissipates, there is a flying Raijin mark on the spot he hit on his back. The masked man's hand begins to melt and fall off somehow. "You really are a flash. I let my guard down for a second," and he doesn't get to finish as Minato appears in front of him with his hand on his stomach. A contract seal. The masked man says, seeing a complex sealing formula spread across his body. The Nine Tails is no longer yours, Minato declares. He jumps back, the enemy having been defeated. It doesn't matter. You winning this battle is only prolonging the inevitable. I plan to rule the world. There's plenty of ways to go about doing that, he says in a serious tone, disappearing, leaving Minato worried. Meanwhile, in the Hidden Leaf, the battle rages on. Several shinobi are trying to subdue the Nine Tails but are unsuccessful so far. None notice, but the Nine Tails' eyes revert from the normal pupil with 3 dots at the very edge of the iris to an eye with just a slit for a pupil. We'll push the Nine Tails out of the village. Advance. The third orders. The shinobi all comply, running forward to occupy the demon fox. The third meanwhile bites his thumb, weaves through some hand signs before slamming his hand down. A puff of smoke follows, and when the smoke clears, standing next to him is none other than Monkey King Emma. Did the seal fail? He questions. The former Hokage nods. We have to push the Nine Tails out of the village. There is a puff of smoke, and when it clears, a large black staff stands in his place. Hiruzen grabs it, places under his arm and yells, "Adamantine staff, extend." It complies as it suddenly extends its length, the tip rushing out to meet the Nine Tails. It hits the Nine Tails in the chest, pushing the beats back until it is out of the village. It's out. Don't stop. Advance and attack, orders the third. Minato appears atop the Hokage monument once again, this time on the third's head, just in time to see another tailed beast bomb being gathered. He weaves through hand signs. A sealing formula appears in the air above the Nine Tails. There is a giant puff and a giant toad falls on top of the Nine Tails. Gamabunta, the chief toad, he boss summon of all toads. Minato teleports himself atop Gamabunta just as the Nine Tails begins forming another tailed beast bomb. I'm sorry, Kushina, Minato says, gathering chakra. He needs to get this as far away from the village as possible. The third realizes what Minato is gathering chakra for and runs towards him. Lord Third, protest the shinobi. Hiruzen jumps onto the Nine Tails, and before anyone can do anything, the Nine Tails, Minato and Hiruzen are gone. An explosion is seen in the distance. Over there. Let's hurry. Scene of explosion. The safe house Minato teleported to with the Nine Tails and Hiruzen at the last moment is destroyed. Crying can be clearly heard. Minato, what's going on? Kushina asked. She looked a bit better. I'm sorry, Kushina. It was the only way. The Nine Tails was going to destroy the village. Hiruzen and Tsunade run up towards the two, Tsunade holding Menma and Mito while Hiruzen is holding the Naruto and Yayoi. A growl is heard by the group. They turn to see the Nine Tails getting up. Kushina claps her hands together. Adamantine sealing chains. Yellow chains made of a special kind O chakra. The chains drill into the ground before come up and wrapping around the Nine Tails. Listen, all of you. I'm going to use what little strength I have left to seal the Nine Tails inside of myself and take it with me into the afterlife. No, Kushina, the man who did this wasn't the last the village will see of him, he said, confusing Tsunade and Hiruzen. The Nine Tails' power will be needed to fight against him when he returns. If I seal half the Nine Tails in myself and the other half in one of, there's no need for either of you to do that. They turn to see Hiruzen with Naruto and Yayoi in his arms. I will seal the Nine Tails using the Reaper Death Seal in conjunction with the 8 Trigram Seal, he says in a tone of finality. I don't know what's the cause of the events that have transpired tonight, but I know the fate of the Hidden Leaf and perhaps the world is on the line. And that's all I need to know. Lord Third. No, Minato, my time has come and gone. You on the other hand have just become Hokage. You achieving this at such an age is symbolic of the next generation stepping in. And you're a father now. Your children will need you to be there for them. It is time the baton was passed. Very well, Lord Third, he relented. Meanwhile, the Nine Tails is thrashing about, desperately attempting to free itself, but to no avail. He knows he is strong enough, but his chakra isn't gathering. This feeling, my chakra won't gather, I feel paralyzed. It's not Kushina's adamantine chains. It's. He looks ahead and his eyes fall on Naruto, that brat. His chakra, with it he's unconsciously suppressing mine. His chakra feels just like. The Nine Tails thinks of a certain shinobi who lived ages ago. He had the ability to subdue tailed beasts and was a leaf ninja. Could it be he has the same ability? The group has finished setting up the ritual altar. The Nine Tails is much too large to seal in one child, so I will split it amongst them. Its chakra I will divide into 3 equal parts and seal into 3 of them, while the beast itself I will seal into 1 of them. Minato, he sighs. Naruto, he's the eldest. Hiruzen nods. He weaves through hand signs and the Reaper is summoned from his realm. The Reaper puts his hand through Hiruzen, making him feel an indescribable cold. No, The Nine Tails protests, but to reveal as its chakra it ripped from it. Then the Nine Tails itself is sealed in Naruto. Hiruzen feels himself being to fade. He falls to the ground. The three gather around him with Tsunade carrying two of the children and Minato the other two. "Tsunade, I want you to know I'm proud of you and tell Orochimaru and Jiraiya the same," he says, making her tear up. "And Tsunade, I know it's hard, but I want you to open your heart again. I want you to learn to love once more." He turns to Kushina. "Kushina, from that little I welcomed to the leaf years ago, you've grown into a splendid, strong woman. Lady Mito would be proud," he says as she struggles to hold back the tears. He finally turns to Minato. "Well done, my boy. You've done me proud. I leave the village in your hands," he says, handing him 4 scrolls, each holding the key to each seal. Minato nods. "I won't let you down," he says, determined. Hiruzen looks up at the moon. He hasn't had a bad life. He regrets a few things, like not being able to be with his wife in the afterlife and letting his best friend slip into darkness. He closes his eyes, breathes his final breath, and allows the Reaper to claim his soul, dying with a smile on his face. Days later, Minato is sitting in his office thinking. A lot has happened in the past few days. The council had demanded answers on the Nine Tails breaking loose. Minato had decided against revealing what had happened and branded the seal breaking an accident. If the possibility of a shinobi such as Madara Uchiha being alive became common knowledge, panic would erupt throughout the village and shinobi world. This unfortunately meant the Uchiha were facing suspicion from certain council members. He had to notify the elders, however, who were not pleased with the information. He had, however, gone public with the information of the Nine Tails and its chakra being sealed away. The villagers had praised Mito, Menma and Yayoi as the village heroes who stripped the demon fox of its power. They did seem a bit apprehensive about Naruto, but he is sure it will pass. It is still the early days after the attack. Kushina by some miracle was still alive and no permanent damage was done. He had thought it was Tsunade's doing, but she was perplexed by it as well. It was put down to her Uzumaki blood in the end. Right now Minato is waiting for Jiraiya, who he summoned to the village. He hears someone enter through his window. He turns to see his sensei. "Hey brat," Jiraiya greets, walking into the office. Minato smiles and immediately activates privacy seals on the room so none outside can hear anything. He proceeds to explain everything to Jiraiya from beginning to end. When he is finished, the Sannin has a frown on his face. "I think this is it, sensei. What you spoke about," Minato says. "The shinobi world will face great danger in the coming days. A child of prophecy will be born. She will hold a great power within and will either save the world or bring about its end," Jiraiya had said to Minato and Kushina. "I believe one of our children is the child of prophecy," says Minato. Jiraiya adopts a thinking pose. "I believe so too. It's got to be either Menma, Mito or Yayoi, as they hold a great power just as the prophecy said. So what will we do? Train him, of course. Prepare them to save the world," he shouts in an overly peppy manner. Minato smiles at this. "Come on then, take me to my godchildren." They both get up and leave, heading for Minato's home, unaware of the events they've set into motion, events that will lead to the birth of a lion that will either save the world or destroy it, just as the prophecy said. End of prologue. Chapter 2, The Jungle. Disclaimer, I do not own Naruto. Chapter 1. Hello all. So this is the first official chapter of King of the Forest. You will notice I drew some inspiration from Domyang's A Son Forgotten, which if you haven't read I recommend you check out. I had wanted to keep the third alive and use him later on, but too large a plot hole would have been the result. I've seen your reviews and want to say pairings will be discussed later on, so I'm not too much concerned with that right now. So on with the story. Time skip, 7 years after the Nine Tails attack. Uzumaki Namikaze Estate. On the southwest end of the Hidden Leaf lies the residence of the 4th Hokage. It is here in the training ground in the backyard of the village leader's home that we find 2 adults watching over 3 children. The first adult is Minato Namikaze himself. The second is Kushina Uzumaki. The first child is the 4th's firstborn daughter. She has red hair that reaches just past her shoulders that she ties up in a ponytail and dark blue or navy eyes. She stands at 4 feet tall. This is Mito. The second is a boy that also stands at 4 feet tall. He has a head of red and black shaggy spiky hair and deep purple eyes. This is the 4th's third child, Menma. The third is a girl who has a head of blonde hair tied in pigtails. She has a round face and has green eyes. She is as tall as her siblings. This the youngest of the Uzumaki Namikaze children, Yayoi. Currently Minato and Kushina are watching over their kids practicing their taijutsu katas. A decision had been taken by the parents to train Menma, Mito and Yayoi as much as possible so that when the masked man finally emerged from the shadows, the one out of the three of them who was the prophesied savior would be ready to face him. Minato had attempted to track the man down using his flying Raging seal, which never disappears from anything it's marked. All he found was a piece of flesh buried in the ground. It was taken back to the village to see if a positive DNA match with any shinobi could be found for it, but nothing came up. The trouble was conclusive proof of whether it was Madara or not couldn't be found, as the village only started keeping DNA samples from shinobi in the hospital archives under the second's reign. Alright, that's enough for now, says Minato. Yayoi, you're very strong, but try to be faster with your attacks. Mito, you move with a lot of grace and control when you attack, but try to exert a bit more force. Menma, you have good speed and strength, but try to have more control and grace when you attack, Minato assesses. They all nod at this. Let's head in for lunch, Kushina says. Alright, let's hurry. The sooner we finish, the sooner we can carry on with training and I can get stronger. You'll just get left in my dust, Yayoi challenges. Both of you are already in my dust, Mito cockily states. The trio begin arguing. Alright enough. The three of you have still got a long way to go as far as I'm concerned, he says, suddenly grabbing Mito and Yayoi and slinging them over his shoulders like sacks, while Kushina does the same with Menma. The kids protest, but soon the whole family is laughing. A figure watches this scene unfold from his bedroom window. He has blonde spiky hair and cerulean blue eyes. He has strange whisker-like marks on his cheeks and has a heart-shaped face. This is Naruto, the eldest of the Uzumaki Namikaze children. One might ask themselves why he is not training with his family. The answer to this is he never does anything with his family. Things weren't as bad as before. Even from a young age, Naruto could tell his siblings were receiving more attention than himself, and not just from his parents. The villagers were also very affectionate with the three, dubbing them the saviors of the hidden leaf. This was because they had the Nine Tails chakra sealed inside of them. It was the opposite with Naruto. The villagers would whisper behind his back and shoot him glares whenever he was around. This was because he had the Nine Tails itself sealed inside of him. In any event, things only grew worse when he turned 5 years old. His parents had explained to him then that they would be training Menma, Mito and Yayoi and preparing them to be shinobi, and that he wouldn't be receiving the same training as preparing his siblings to one day control the power they held took priority. Naruto was saddened but understood. Contrary to popular belief, he was quite intelligent. The difference between him and his siblings was he had the foundation of a civilian academy student because of his parents neglecting to teach him. The neglect Naruto faced got worse and worse, to a point where whenever his family went out they would leave him behind. How did his siblings feel about this? Menma and Yayoi would constantly make fun of him for being weak when he was older and convinced the kids at the academy not to go near him. Mito simply behaved obliviously towards his existence. Naruto is hoping things change soon. The next day, Naruto wakes up and heads downstairs to find the house empty. He clenches his fist angrily. As always, he smiles, realizing now is his chance. He heads to his father's study and begins raiding the jutsu section. The first he grabs is the Shadow Clone Jutsu and some Shuriken Jutsu. Then just as he's about to go for another, he hears laughter from outside. He utters a curse before leaving the study. He rushes up the stairs to his bedroom, shuts the door, jumps out of the window and is off to the nearest available training ground. Hours later, Naruto sits on the ground panting. Since coming here he has been working on his Shuriken Jutsu and Taijutsu. He mastered the Shadow Clone Jutsu quite fast. It suits him well because of his large chakra reserves. Now he finally has someone to go to the academy for him while he puts in some meaningful training. The academy is a waste of time in Naruto's opinion. It doesn't properly equip one with the skills they will need when they go into the field. A majority of the students in it will fail to graduate, and for those who do, it will be a question of will they survive a year in the field. He gets up and heads home. Naruto is walking through the village and begins to see a crowd forming around him. Whispers and murmurs can be heard. There he is. Just look at him. Disgrace to his family. How dare he call himself the fourth son? Demon. Naruto takes off running, not being able to take any more, and doesn't stop until he reaches his training ground. He falls on the ground and curls himself in a ball. The villagers always do this. The villagers had treated him this way for as long as he could remember. At first they weren't as brazen, but they quickly realized no one was going to stop them. He begins to feel angry and unintentionally infuses his chakra. Naruto suddenly feels something rough wrapping around him. He opens his eyes to see what appears to be branches that have sprouted from the ground out of nowhere and wrapped around him. He quickly untangles himself. What was that? He says to himself aloud. He closes his eyes and places his hands into the snake seal. He infuses chakra and focuses hard. He hears a sound and opens his eyes to see a tree. This could only mean one thing. The next day, Naruto jumps out of his bed and wastes no time showering and getting dressed before anyone else is up, intent on confirming his suspicions about what happened last night. He jumps out of his window not wanting to run into anyone from his family, and is off. Training ground. Naruto forms two shadow clones. One heads to the academy, as is now routine, and the other goes off to the library to collect notes on wood-based jutsu. Then he unfolds a scroll and starts reading. The summoning jutsu is a jutsu that allows the user to transport a target to their location. Before an animal can be summoned, a prospective summoner must first form a contract with the animal and/or its species. Although in rare cases one can use the summoning jutsu prior to acquiring a contract to determine the summoning animal one has a natural affinity. This can have dire consequences, however, and is not advised. Naruto thinks about this. What the hell, he says, what's the worst that can happen? He says to himself. He doesn't have to worry about chakra exhaustion. He reads further for the instructions. Naruto bites his thumb while infusing a fair amount of chakra. He slams his hand onto the ground. Summoning jutsu. A puff of smoke engulfs Naruto. When the smoke clears, Naruto looks around in shock. This is not the hidden leaf. He appears to be in a mountainous area with dense jungles. Naruto hears a growl and turns around to see, standing only a few feet away, a lion. This one is no ordinary lion, however. It appears to be about the size of an adult horse. Roar, it roars, causing Naruto to fall on his backside. Acting fast, he jumps up and takes off with the beast hot on his heels. Naruto jumps into a nearby tree thinking he's safe, only for the lion to leap after him. What? How is that even possible? He says, shocked, leaping to another tree. The lion leaps after him. The chase continues like this until Naruto jumps down onto the forest floor. He forms a dozen shadow clones who all run in different directions. The lion looks around not knowing which one to go after. It releases a roar that echoes through the forest. With Naruto, Naruto has managed to get far enough from his hunter. What the hell was that? That lion was coming for me with the moves of a shinobi. He says, still trying to calm himself. Alright, now I need to get out of here. Naruto is stopped in his tracks as his hunter jumps down from the trees in front of him. He looks around to see other lions emerging from the surrounding trees. He sighs. Got your friends to help you take down the clones, huh? He whips out a kunai. If this is it and he's really going to die, then he's going to die fighting. A figure dressed in a white haori and black shinobi pants and sandals jumps down next to Naruto. He looks up to see a man who looks to be in his mid-50s. He has grey short hair and a stubble on his face. His eyes are black. Enough, he says in a commanding tone. You dare protect this intruder, growls Naruto's unidentified hunter. If he's here, then that fact alone means he isn't one, the man says in a challenging tone. The lions growl lowly before they part to form a path for them to pass. The man turns around and smiles at Naruto. Follow me. Naruto frowns and gets into a fighting stance. What makes you think I trust you? Would you rather stay here and face them? The man says, gesturing to the lions. Naruto relents and follows him. They walk in silence for a while. So what's your name? Mine's Akasada. Akasada Takahashi. I'm Naruto. Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze. Akasada chuckles. That's a good name. A maelstrom, huh? Naruto smiles. Sorry about back there. No problem. You were right for not immediately coming with me, he says. I know how you ended up here. So you're a shinobi in training, he says. Yes, so what is this place? Naruto asks. This is Mount Rayon, home of the lion summons, and you're only the second human to set foot in this place, Akasada answered. Oh, so where are we going? Naruto asks. To the ruler of this place, Lord Helios. In his palace you'll be presented with the summoning contract for the lions and you'll sign it. Akasada explains. They walk for a few kilometers. Naruto sees more lions and lionesses in this time. He comes to the realization that they vary in size. Some are a normal size, some are as large as horses, and some are the size of elephants. They continue walking until they get to a large rock. Two large stone lions are at either side of a set of tall double doors. Akasada places his hand on the double doors and they open wide. He walks in with Naruto trailing behind. Inside, an incredibly large lion is seen sitting on a throne. He has golden brown fur and his mane is slightly darker than his fur. His eyes are golden in color. The lion is large enough so that he could crush Naruto easily with one of his fingers. Akasada, who is this? Asks Helios in an intimidating tone. Boss, this is a young man who winded up here after using the summoning jutsu without a contract. It appears he has a natural affinity for your people. Akasada says. I'll be the judge of that. Bring out the summoning contract. If it rejects his chakra, you will pay Akasada, he says, causing the man to gulp. A lion comes out from behind the throne with the scroll in his mouth and sets it down in front of Naruto. Akasada unfolds it. Sign your name in blood here, put each of your fingerprints here and infuse chakra and push it in here, he says. Just as Akasada said, his name is the only one on the contract. Naruto signs his name and marks the contract with his fingerprints. He breathes in deep before pushing his chakra into the contract. It appears you were right, Akasada. Human boy, what is your name? Also Helios. Naruto, he replies. Helios notices the determination and fire in his eyes and inwardly chuckles. You have now earned the right to summon the lions. It is an honor that you are only the second to have bestowed upon. Do not disappoint. He nods. Right, Naruto, let's go. They leave the chief lion's abode. When they get outside, a lion slightly smaller than Helios is sighting there. Akasada, who is this brat, questions the lion, making Naruto a bit angry. This is Naruto, your new summoner. Naruto, this is Latios, the boss's brother and your new summons. A new summoner, this little cub, no chance in hell. Naruto finally speaks up, wanna bet kitten? Latios growls and gets up, bowing his head to meet Naruto at eye level. Say that again, he dares. Kitten, Naruto says. There is silence. Cub's got some raw, but as for your bite, that remains to be seen, he says, getting up and stalking off, leaving an irritated Naruto and an amused Akasada. Don't mind him, he's just testing you. Naruto sighs. So I get to summon all lions? Even the boss? Naruto asks. No, all except the boss. That privilege you will earn when you become a sage, Akasada says. How does that work? Naruto asks. You'll find out soon. He turns to Akasada. I need you to train me, he says, not beating about the bush. Akasada, who is this? Asks Helios in an intimidating tone. Boss, this is a young man who winded up here after using the summoning jutsu without a contract. It appears he has a natural affinity for your people, Akasada says. Akasada is taken aback a bit. Don't you have people in your village for that? I'm going nowhere fast with them, he replies plainly. Akasada ponders this a bit. When do you need my help? Every day, Naruto says. He sighs. Alright, may as well, smirks Akasada. Naruto grins from ear to ear. Alright, see you tomorrow, sensei. He turns around and is about to walk off when he remembers something. How do I get home? He asks sheepishly. Akasada sighs. This kid is something else. Akasada shows Naruto the hand signs he will need to weave when summoning a lion. Now weave those backwards and you'll be back home. Naruto nods and weaves the hand signs backwards before slamming his hand on the ground. A puff of smoke is the result. When the smoke clears, he is gone. Fast learner, Akasada comments. Hidden leaf. The smoke clears and Naruto finds himself back in the leaf. He is happy. He finally has someone to train him. He looks in front of himself to see a book. Must have gotten tired of waiting, he says. He picks it up. The title is God of Shinobi. He opens the book and starts reading. Hashirama Senju was famed for many things, such as establishing the ninja village system that the shinobi world operates by and being the first Hokage. Many believe him to be the most powerful shinobi who ever lived. He practiced many jutsu, but perhaps the most powerful jutsu in his extensive arsenal was the wood style. With it he could change entire landscapes in seconds, bring down armies and even subdue tailed beasts. Naruto's eyes widen at this. He reads on. He could use the wood-style Kekkei Genkai by combining an earth-style change in chakra nature and a water-style change in the chakra nature. Naruto takes out the piece of paper sticking out of the back. Moment of truth. Naruto pushes his chakra into the paper. First it splits in half. Then the one half turns into dirt and the other becomes wet. There's no other explanation. Naruto has the wood style of the first Hokage. Time skip. 3 years later. Uzumaki Namikaze Estate. Menma, Mito and Yayoi are in the family's private training ground. They are balancing kunai on their fingers. A chakra control exercise. This is so boring, Menma complains. When am I gonna get the chance to learn some real jutsu like Dad's Rasengan? Quiet down, Menma. Chakra control is essential. If you don't have it, then you won't be able to use a jutsu like the Rasengan. Says Mito. Yeah. Menma, bored, blows at Yayoi's kunai. Hey, yells Yayoi. Menma. I'm telling Mom, Dad, she says, running to her parents who are sitting on the side watching. Mom, Dad, Menma blew my kunai off. I did no such thing. Right, Mito, they're both being a nuisance. Alright, that's enough for today, Kushina says. Mom, Dad, all turn to Yayoi. When can Naruto start training with us? She asks. In recent years, Yayoi's feelings towards Naruto have changed. She's realized how she's been towards him and is trying to change that. Immediately there is silence. Kushina and Minato have sad looks on their faces. They are aware of how for the past few years they've severely neglected Naruto. They want to change that but don't know how to go about it. "Why do you want to train with that loser?" said Menma, visibly growing angry. He despised Naruto. Every time someone mentioned him, the mood would grow sour. He was weak. Naruto was dead last at the academy and all he knew how to do was cause trouble. At the mention of his name, things would be spoilt. As far as Menma is concerned, Naruto doesn't deserve to be called a member of this family. "Menma, don't say that about your brother," Kushina reprimanded. Menma held back a scoff. "Maybe that isn't a bad idea," said Minato, who had been quiet up until this point. "From now on Naruto will be training with us," Minato says. "Yay, big brother will be so happy," she exclaims, jumping up. Kushina and Minato chuckle at her. Mito appears indifferent. Menma is frustrated. "Way to go, Yayoi." Mount Rayon. Naruto attempts to deliver a claw to Akasada's stomach only for it to be blocked. He jumps back, avoiding Akasada's leg sweep. Naruto is forced to put his forearms up as Akasada attempts to deliver a punch right at his face. Naruto reacts by grabbing Akasada's arm and attempts a judo throw, but Akasada lands on his feet and kicks Naruto in the stomach, causing him to skid back. Naruto jumps into the air and attempts a right hook at Akasada, but he catches Naruto's fist. Naruto twists himself in the air and attempts a spinning kick at Akasada, which grazes him. "Alright, that's enough. You're at times faster and at times more focused on strength. You need to be more of both at the same time. Remember, the Lion Fist is about using an immense amount of speed and strength to grind your opponent down." Naruto nods. The Lion Fist is the taijutsu style that Akasada had taught him. Naruto and Akasada had formed a deep bond with one another and become quite close with each other since Naruto had become his student. Naruto had learned that Akasada was a former shinobi of the hidden cloud known as the Typhoon, for his vast arsenal of wind-style jutsu. Naruto had done some research and found out that Akasada was quite feared during his heyday and wreaked havoc on the battlefield during the Third Shinobi World War. He was the cloud's equivalent of the Sannin. The history books reflected that during the course of the war Akasada had mysteriously gone missing and was presumed dead, but the truth was Akasada had lost his entire family during an attack in the war, his parents, his wife and his kids, and had from then on wanted nothing to do with the shinobi world. He had lived on Mount Rayon since, with the lions welcoming him as he was their one and only summoner at the time. Akasada had learned Naruto was the son of the fourth Hokage Minato Namikaze and his wife the red-hot habanero of the hidden leaf Kushina Uzumaki and the vessel for the chakra strip Nine Tails. He had never faced the yellow flash, but an old friend of his had. He was shocked to learn that Naruto possessed the wood style of the first Hokage. Naruto had learned a lot from Akasada. He had taught him quite a bit, but not just in regards to ninjutsu. Before Naruto met Akasada, he trained to become stronger so that the world would know his name, and to some extent that was still part of what he wanted, but now he looked at things differently. He understood that people like him and Akasada were victimized the way they were because of the way the shinobi world was, and he wanted to change that. "Alright, head home. We'll continue tomorrow," says Akasada. Naruto nods, bites his thumb, weaves the summoning jutsu hand signs in reverse, and in a puff of smoke is gone. Naruto's training ground. In a puff of smoke, Naruto is back in the village. By now it is dark. He gets up and walks towards his home. He has worked by the same routine for the past 3 years. Every morning he wakes up, gets ready for the day and leaves before everyone else. He gets to his training ground, or at least what used to be his training ground, and forms a shadow clone that goes to the academy. He then performs the reverse summoning jutsu and spends the whole day on Mount Rayon training with Akasada. Once the day is up, he heads back. Of course, he has to make sure he doesn't get careless lest he risk being found out, so on days where they have practical tasks and sparring sessions at the academy, he has to show up. Naruto keeps up the appearance of a dead last hopeless loser at the academy. He believes that he can't afford to trust anyone with the knowledge of his true power lest he risk vulnerability. As for his wood style, Naruto had learned only a few jutsu with it and he hadn't trained extensively with it. Naruto is aware of the fact that if the village were to learn he possesses the first Kekkei Genkai, they would make efforts to transform him into a weapon, and his father, as always, would allow him to do as they please. He couldn't have that. He will, for now, only resort to using it in a dire life or death situation. Naruto turns a corner and whips out a kunai as a swirling distortion forms in the air. During his years under Akasada, he had awakened a sensory ability. Out of the distortion appears a figure wearing what appears to be traditional Uchiha robes. He has spiky long hair that reaches down his back. His face is hidden by an orange mask with a tiger stripe-like design. His mask has one eye hole and through it Naruto can see a 3 Tomoe Sharingan glowing in the dark. The man does a good job at trying to hide it, but his chakra feels vile. He's an Uchiha alright, but he can't be a leaf ninja. His chakra came out of nowhere, observes Naruto. Who are you? He questions. The masked man chuckles. It's no surprise you don't remember me. But I remember you, the man replies, not answering Naruto's question. He steps forward, giving Naruto his cue to attack. The blonde boy jumps at the masked man, a kunai in hand, intent on killing him. Naruto is shocked when he passes through the man as if he isn't there. He attempts to deactivate any genjutsu, but there is none. He weaves through some hand signs before yelling, "Wind style, wind orb barrage." Naruto breathes in before blowing out multiple balls of wind chakra, sending them right at the man. The same thing happens. They pass through him like a ghost. The next thing Naruto knows, the masked man is standing in front of him. He knees him in the gut, causing the boy to hunch over. Then he punches him square in the face, sending him stumbling back. He grabs the boy by his collar and tosses him like a rag doll, sending him skidding and rolling. Naruto gets up on his knees and feels the man infuse a large amount of chakra. He puts his hands in the snake seal. Wood style, wood barrier jutsu. The masked man, seeing this, has a manic smile on his face behind his mask as he weaves his hand signs. Fire style, fireball jutsu. A massive fireball somehow comes out of the man's mouth and goes right through his mask. It collides with the barrier, but it stands firm and protects Naruto from the flames. He takes his hands apart, allowing the wooden beams to recede back into the ground. He gets up onto his feet and looks at his enemy. This is bad. He has the ability to make himself intangible, meaning I can't land any attacks on him. Naruto gives himself no more time to think. His eyes widen and he places his hands in the snake seal as realization hits him. Release, he yells. The masked figure in front of him disappears as he immediately breaks the genjutsu that was just cast on him. He whips around only to receive a kick to the chest that knocks the wind out of him. While he flies through the air, the masked figure weaves through a set of hand signs. Fire style, fireball jutsu, he calls out once again. Naruto, meanwhile, crashes to the ground and gets to his knees, not being able to muster the strength to jump up. His eyes widen as he sees the fireball cannoning towards him. He jumps up and does his best to evade the fireball, but can't escape the resultant explosion from it colliding with the ground, which sends him flying once again until he hits the ground and rolls before skidding to a stop. Naruto lays on the ground, helpless, as the man walks towards him. The masked stranger grabs him and lifts him up by his collar. I'm impressed. You've grown strong. Even I wasn't expecting wood style, he says. Naruto is clawing at the man's arm, desperately trying to free himself from his grasp. But you're nowhere near as strong as you should be, the man says. He looks Naruto in the eye, the Tomoe of his Sharingan spinning. The blonde boy yells in pain before he goes limp in the masked stranger's grip. He's out cold. The masked man drops Naruto unceremoniously onto the ground. Now sleep, Naruto. Sleep and grow stronger, he says as he disappears into the swirling distortion he appeared through. Uzumaki Namikaze Estate. There is an unusual silence at the Uzumaki Namikaze Estate as the family sit around the table. They are waiting for Naruto to return. Kushina had gone up to his room only to discover he wasn't in it. She refused to serve dinner until her eldest son returned and sat with them. He usually didn't eat with them, but considering the occasion, that should change. An Anbu Black Op teleports into the room in a puff of smoke. Lord Hokage, he says, addressing the village leader in the appropriate manner on one knee. Yes, what is it? Asks Minato. There's been a terrible incident. The Uchiha clan has been massacred. Itachi Uchiha is believed to be responsible. What? Minato says, leaping out of his seat. Is Mikoto. Kushina is not able to finish her sentence. Her best friend can't be. She and Fugaku left the Uzumaki Namikaze estate a couple of hours ago on a visit. Lady Mikoto is alive. So is Lord Fugaku and their children. Itachi was caught by Lord Fugaku accosting his younger brother Sasuke. He and his sister Satsuki are currently at the Leaf Hospital. There is more. Your eldest son has been attacked. Itachi is believed to be responsible for this as well. A shock-laced silence fills the room. No, no, Kushina cries, tears beginning to stream down her cheeks. Kushina, I'm going to the Uchiha clan compound. You head to the hospital now, Minato says. Menma, Mito and Yayoi watch this scene unfold, not knowing what to do. Leaf Hospital. 2nd and 3rd degree burns and fractured ribs. Tsunade says, giving her assessment. He should heal fast, all things considered, but that isn't the real issue. Naruto appears to have suffered an immense amount of psychological trauma, Tsunade says to a crying Kushina. Kushina is desperately trying to keep it together. She has her arm around Mikoto, who has stopped crying by now and has just shut down. I'm not sure when he'll come around, Tsunade admits. Thanks Tsunade, she says. All they can do is hope. A few days later, Naruto groans as he finally opens his eyes. He feels like he has been hit by a brick over the head. There he is. The first person he sees is Tsunade. All of Naruto's physical injuries had already healed to Tsunade's surprise. That was incredible even for an Uzumaki. Lady Tsunade, Naruto feels someone jump onto him. He looks to see his mother, in tears hugging him tight. He doesn't know how to feel about this. Naruto, I was so scared, she says. He sits up in his bed. Kushina has not left his side since she came to the hospital. She pushes a small bit of chakra into the flying radiant seal in her wedding ring, and seconds later Minato is standing there. Naruto, you're awake, he says smiling. Yes, he replies plainly. Do you remember what happened to you? Asks Minato. Naruto rubs his head. I was on the way home from some training and he just came out of nowhere and attacked me. IT tried to stop him but he was too strong. Who? Minato asks. Itachi Uchiha, Naruto replies plainly. Minato looks him in the eyes and can tell he isn't lying. I see. Well, all that matters is you're okay. There's something I meant to ask you before all of this. I'm your mother and I had discussed it. We were wondering if you would like us to train you along with your siblings from now on. Minato asks. Naruto is taken aback by this. Where did that come from? Well, it doesn't matter. No thank you, he says, surprising the couple. But why? Kushina asks. The two of you have made so much progress with Menma, Mito and Yayoi, and if I joined now I would only be holding him back. He says, lying through his teeth. Well, we could train you aside until you catch up, Kushina suggests. I'd rather not. Naruto insists. The conversation ends like this, although the couple take notice of how throughout the conversation Naruto avoided referring to them as Mom and Dad. The next day Naruto is up as usual. Kushina had tried to keep him bedridden but he quickly reminded her of how he had completely healed. Yayoi had smothered and nearly squashed him to death when she saw him home and well. Mito simply said she was glad he was okay and things quickly turned awkward afterwards. Menma didn't even speak to him. None of it matters to him. He walks through the village with a million thoughts in his head. Akasada will be wondering why hasn't he shown up for training in days. Speaking of which the whole ordeal is still very confusing. He didn't know Itachi Uchiha very well. He knew his mother was best friends with Kushina and that he was a once-in-a-generation prodigy who became a chunin at age 10, an Anbu at 11 and captain of his own squad just 2 years later at 13. But that was it. There wasn't much else. Now, regardless of being a person who didn't have much knowledge on Itachi, the near-complete annihilation of his clan didn't make sense. And Itachi choosing to attack Naruto of all people made even less sense to the blonde. What did he ever do to him? Now that he thought carefully about it, the two had never properly exchanged words. The way Itachi spoke when he attacked him was strange. Like he'd been watching him. He shakes his head, finally arriving at his old training ground. He forms a clone that wastes no time in leaving for the academy. He bites his thumb, weaves through the signs he's become so accustomed to and slams his hand on the ground, disappearing in a cloud of smoke. Mount Rayon. Naruto arrives at the usual spot he and Akasada use for training to see his sensei isn't there. He decides to go look for him at Helios's palace. He walks past many lions and notices some of them give him looks. Over the past 3 years they have become accustomed to his presence, so this is quite strange. He arrives at the palace, greeted by the usual stone lions at the door. He pushes the double doors open. Lord Helios, sorry to disturb you. I can't find Akasada, Naruto says. Sitting next to Helios is Latios. Naruto step forward, Helios commands. Naruto does as he is told. A lion comes towards Naruto with a scroll in its mouth. He takes the scroll and opens it up. Dear Naruto, if reading this then I'm gone. As I write this letter I'm sick. The truth is I've been sick since before the day we met. At first I didn't tell you because it was a matter of you not needing to know. But then things changed, Naruto. Over the 3 years we spent together, you and I forged an incredible bond. You found a place in my heart and I found one in yours. You made me feel like I had my family back. Like I had back the son I lost. And for you I suppose I was the father you never had. And that's probably why you're mad at me right now. And I'm sorry. I'm so sorry for being a coward and not telling you this face to face. I just couldn't bring myself to do it. I hope you can forgive me. And one more thing, Naruto. I believe it will be you. I believe you will be the one to change this shinobi world. To ensure there never have to be people like you and I. It's no coincidence that you possess the ability of the first Hokage. You are the harbinger of change for this world, Naruto. Go and fulfill your destiny and show the world you are what I've always known you to be. A lion. The world is a jungle laden with dangers, but you are its king. A lion. Love. Your sensei, your friend, your father, Akasada Takahashi. P.S. You will be given a large scroll that contains almost every jutsu I've ever mastered, along with a storage scroll containing my life savings. Use these well. The lion comes forward with a second larger scroll. Naruto is by now crying at full force. He takes the scroll with one hand and the other is wiping away his tears. Do you want to see his body? Latios asks. No, Naruto replies, desperately trying to stop crying. I need some time. He walks off. It will be a while before he is able to bring himself to set foot in this place again. End of Chapter 2. Chapter 2, Beginnings time skip, 3 years after the Uchiha incident. The Genin examinations. This event is seen as the culmination of years of work from the aspiring ninja. A day where academy students who were once seen as hopeless rookie brats were finally recognized as fully fledged shinobi. Naruto Uzumaki is walking through the central part of the hidden leaf towards the academy. Today he will be taking the same exams. He would be lying if he said he wasn't a little excited. It's been 3 years since Akasada's death. In this time he has continued to keep up the facade of a dead last loser. Whenever he had to write theory tests, he would calculate how many he needed to fail and pass to barely pass, and sometimes purposely failing and taking extra credit. Whenever they had sparring sessions at the academy, he would use the basic taijutsu style and fight until having acquired enough points to pass before taking a dive, but he wouldn't have to for much longer. Once he becomes a shinobi, he'll finally legally be an adult, and at that point nobody will be able to touch him. Not even Minato. Speaking of which, after his beating at the hands of Itachi Uchiha, Naruto was plagued by attempts by his family to get back into his life. Well, to be more specific, attempts by Minato, Kushina and Yayoi. Mito has always seemed indifferent and uninterested by him, whereas Menma openly voiced his disdain towards him. Years ago Naruto would have jumped at the opportunity to finally be part of the family, but he didn't want that anymore. There's still the matter of the wood style. Naruto realizes he didn't put much thought into that. He couldn't keep it hidden forever. Not because he is incapable of doing so, but because it's a powerful Kekkei Genkai and not being able to use it is just inconvenient and a monumental waste. He ends up deciding, like always, to push that to the back of his mind to be dealt with later. He had continued to train himself in its use. He hasn't been to Mount Rayon since that day 3 years ago. The day he lost his sensei. Flashback. There is no use in being strong if you don't move fast enough to land a hit, and there is no use in being fast if you're not strong enough to actually land hits that have an effect, Akasada says, sending Naruto flying through the air with a kick to the chest. Naruto rolls and skids along the ground. He sits up. Are you going to teach me ninjutsu, or have you been lying to me this whole time and you never really made it past the academy? Naruto asks, growing frustrated. Akasada grows red and steam comes out of his ears. How dare you? Do you know who I am? I am the Akasada Takahashi, the great typhoon of the hidden cloud. A man capable of commanding the wind with his very voice, he shouts. Akasada continues to rant but quickly realizes Naruto is tuning him out. Naruto, listen to me, he says, growing redder, waving his arms in the air. Naruto sighs and puts both fists to his chin. There's no point in learning ninjutsu without the correct base, which is taijutsu. Your opponent will have you on the ground before you can even finish weaving signs. Why are you so desperate to learn ninjutsu anyway? Naruto mumbles. What? Akasada says. I want to get stronger so they regret ever leaving me out in the cold. So they can't ignore me any longer. I want him to fall to their knees and beg me to come back just for me to shut him out like they did, Naruto confesses. Akasada's face softens. He walks over to his student and sits down next to him. Look, Naruto, I'm not going to sit here and pretend as if I understand and can relate to what you've been through and are going through, because the truth is I don't. Akasada says. But if that's really why you're doing this, maybe you should cut your losses and leave now, he says to Naruto, shocking his student. You have immense potential to become bigger than anything this world has ever seen. I know it. This is coming from someone who has fought alongside the Third and Fourth Raikage. It's for that reason that, if your heart isn't in the right place, then someone like you could end up causing untold destruction, he says, causing Naruto's eyes to widen in shock. And I don't want that. That's all I will say to you. Akasada leaves his student with a lot to think about, jumping up and twisting in the air before landing on his feet in front of Naruto, who is now reflecting on his sensei's words. So, ninjutsu huh? He breathes in, while weaving signs, before blowing out a gust of wind that lifts Naruto into the air. He watches as it transforms into a miniature tornado. Naruto yells, protesting as the twister whips him about. Before you learn ninjutsu, you need to learn how to creatively evade and/or neutralize the enemies. Akasada says, sitting down. It's his turn to prop his chin up on his fists. Well, go on then, get started, he says, chuckling. Flashback end. Naruto can't help but chuckle at that memory, although he isn't sure how to feel about his sensei's words of warning. He sighs, growing sad. Naruto loved Akasada deeply. His sensei had done something for him nobody else had ever done. But he had also lied to him. He still isn't at peace with that. Naruto doesn't allow himself much thought on this subject because it forces him to come face to face with the reality that he's never been able to trust anyone without being let down. Luckily, he doesn't have to for much longer as the academy comes into view. It consists of many buildings joined together, built over time. A tree with a swing can be seen in not far from it. Perhaps its boldest feature is the large and bold kanji for fire clearly visible at the front above its doors. Naruto has had a change of outfit to reflect the occasion. He is wearing black Anbu-style pants with bandages wrapped around his legs and black sandals. On his upper body he is wearing a snug-fitting black jersey with sleeves reaching his forearms just below his elbows. On the upper part of the right sleeve one can see the head of a golden lion. Over this he is wearing a sleeveless black hoodie with gold lining with the zip left open. Naruto walks into the academy and heads straight for class. The exams are no doubt going to be extremely easy. This is quite stupid. If that is supposed to be the village's assessment of whether one is prepared for the shinobi world, then dark times were ahead for the village. He opens the door to his class and walks in. He usually shows up earlier than all else so he has time to meditate. The seating is arranged in rows that go up as they go further back. Naruto's eyes scan over the room looking for notable participants in the exams. Sitting in the front row is his younger brother Menma, and next to him are his best friends Kiba Inuzuka, son of the Inuzuka clan head. Next to them are Mito and Yayoi and their friends Hinata Hyuga and Kaori Hirota. In the following row are Ino Yamanaka and Sakura Haruno, who are best friends and rivals for the affections of the two most popular boys in class. Opposite them are one of those boys, Sasuke Uchiha, the second eldest son of the head of the Uchiha clan Fugaku Uchiha, and next to him is his twin sister Satsuki Uchiha. Both have blank looks on their faces. And next to them are Shikamaru Nara, the son of the village's Jonin commander and head of the Nara clan Shukaku Nara, and his best friend Choji Akamichi, son of the Akamichi clan head. In the furthest row, a little away from some civilian kids, was the most mysterious and quiet member of the class, next to Naruto and heir to the Aburame clan Shino Aburame. All in all, there are a lot of clan heirs and individuals of noble blood in the class, leading many to believe this is the most promising generation of shinobi the village has seen in years. Naruto walks towards his usual spot at the back, acting oblivious to the eyes on him. Menma eyes Naruto with a cocky smirk on his face. Poor fool, probably thinks a change of outfit is gonna earn points, Menma voices internally. If one thing hasn't changed in the past few years, it's that Naruto is the same hopeless loser he has always been. He remembered how irate he had been when his parents had wanted to start involving Naruto in their training sessions, but thankfully Naruto, being as stupid as he is, had refused despite being in desperate need of the help. His parents have been trying to give Naruto more attention in the years following his supposed run-in with the rogue Uchiha clan heir, but it will all end soon, he is sure. Once he fails to graduate today, they are sure to realize, like everyone else, that Naruto isn't worth wasting their time on. Another pair of eyes studying Naruto carefully are the eyes of Sasuke Uchiha. Sasuke, unlike most individuals, has been watching Naruto for quite some time now. Ever since after that night, the raven-haired boy, after recovering from his accosting, had received news that Naruto had suffered a similar attack from the same attacker. He has been watching Naruto carefully at every chance he has gotten ever since. Sasuke has been analyzing Naruto and can tell from the way he fights, his muscle movements, the way he studies his opponent, his eyes, and the very nature of the defeats he suffered that Naruto is not what he is perceived to be by many. You couldn't tell at first glance, but Naruto is hiding his true strength. Sasuke can attest to that from the few occasions he has sparred him. He's strong, perhaps as strong as himself. The question is, why would Naruto hide his power? Sasuke is determined to find out. The reason being, it may lead him one step closer to him. Naruto gets to his seat in the corner at the back and sits down. He folds his arms and looks ahead at the exam proctors and the chunin who have been in charge of this class since it entered the academy. The first is Iruka Yumino. He has a tan skin tone and brown hair tied in a ponytail. Perhaps his most distinguishing feature is the scar on his face. He has a scar that runs from one side of his nose, across the bridge of his nose to the other. He is dressed in traditional chunin attire. The second is Mizuki. Naruto does not know his last name. He has shoulder-length white with a slight tint of blue to it. He is also wearing the standard hidden leaf shinobi attire with his headband tied around his head like a bandana. Iruka seemed apprehensive of him, but that wasn't surprising or new to him. He is assuming that according to his age the Chunin lost his parents during the Nine Tails attack. Iruka never made any attempt to sabotage him, not that it would have made any difference. Neither did Mizuki, but he could sense the white-haired ninja didn't like him. Iruka only realizes once Naruto is seated that he is staring at the blonde boy. Naruto has been and still is a mystery to him. The other instructors at the academy told him to ignore Naruto, and some even went as far as advising him to take advantage of his situation and sabotage the brat's performance. Why should the poser of a demon brat be a shinobi, was the sentiment echoed by most. However, over time, contrary to his expectations, he discovered Naruto was not the troublemaking no good brat many of the villagers made him out to be. He was very quiet and kept to himself. Though Iruka is sure this isn't by choice, seeing as calling Naruto's reputation bad is an understatement. Naruto is, on a daily basis, mocked and ridiculed for being the only weak member of the Uzumaki Namikaze family. His sisters are always top contenders for the right to top kunoichi, while his brother has been locked in a duel for top of the class with Sasuke Uchiha since their class entered the academy. As for his parents, their achievements need no mention, whereas Naruto himself is dead last, barely passing each year and on some occasions surviving on extra credit. Iruka at first supported this popular view. The memory of his parents' death is always still fresh and vivid in his mind, but he, after a while, realized there wasn't any real piece of evidence making Naruto suspicious. In the end, Iruka resolved to be impartial towards Naruto, choosing not to sabotage him but also not offering the struggling boy any help. He didn't make it hard, seeing as he never asked. Iruka did however remain cautious of Naruto. He is now wondering if the boy is going to pass. Probably not, he says inwardly. Alright, this is it. The day you have all been working towards for years now. Without further ado, let's get into it, he says, silencing the nervous murmuring that has filled the room. The exams will consist of two main components. A theory portion which will consist of a written test, and a practical portion split into two parts. In the first half, each of you will engage in a sparring session with Mizuki here while I mark your performance, and you will perform an accuracy test with some kunai and shuriken. In the other half, you will be required to perform the three basic jutsu of the academy which the village requires that any shinobi know. These three are the substitution jutsu, the clone jutsu and the transformation jutsu. You will obviously pass or fail to graduate depending on how many points you acquire from the exams altogether. Naruto resists a scoff. Is he serious? That's all there is to becoming a shinobi? No, it can't be. If it is, then a lot of the people in this room are doomed. Naruto suspects something more has got to be up. Minato, as much it pains him to say, is not a fool. Iruka hands out the tests. Naruto writes it and breezes through it. He intentionally scores just above the pass requirement. He then pretends to fall asleep when in fact he uses this extra time to meditate. After the tests are collected and graded, the class heads outside for the first half of the practical exam. Naruto purposely fails this part of the exams just to keep up appearances. Satsuki and Sasuke tie for highest in this section of the exams. This earns swoons and murmurs from their respective fan clubs. The two do not seem to care. After this, the sparring sessions take place. Naruto, as always, fights for points rather than to impress, though he can tell Mizuki is going rougher on him than everyone else. The first half of the practical exam ends and all go inside and take their seats and await to be called upon for the final test. Naruto does as he did before, taking advantage of the opportunity to meditate. He does this for a while and after a while feels a familiar chakra signature outside of the academy. Kushina. Not long after, another chakra signature appears, this one more suddenly. Minato. He'll have to try his best to slip past them once he has taken his exam. He doesn't have to wait long. Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze, Iruka calls out. Naruto stands up and heads down, once again, paying the watching eyes no mind. Menma, Mito and Yayoi have all already gone and received their headbands. He steps in front of the two proctors. Right, Naruto, Iruka says with what Naruto can easily recognize to be a fake smile. He knows what this looks like because of the less brave individuals in the village who choose to act like they tolerate him so as not to risk inciting the ire of the fourth. You know what to do. Substitution, clone and transformation jutsu in that order. Naruto substitutes with his chair in the corner. Then he uses the normal clone jutsu. No need to make any revelations just yet. Then he performs the transformation jutsu. Iruka and Mizuki are shocked to see an identical version of Hashirama Senju standing before them. Not one discrepancy. Congratulations Naruto, you passed, he says, fake smile and all. Well done, Mizuki says, sporting a fake smile of his own, except his is hiding anger. As opposed to the many smiles and exclamations of joy they got today, Naruto simply bows and says thank you, a blank look on his face. Naruto grabs the only headband with a black strap on the table. Iruka and Mizuki tell him to report to the academy in exactly a week to meet his assigned 3-man squad. He nods at this and leaves, putting his headband in his pocket as opposed to wearing it around his head so proudly like most of the other new shinobi had. Naruto walks out of the academy. There's no running away like he had planned because his family is standing right in front of the entrance. Had he teleported away, his father would have sensed him infusing chakra. Oh well, Minato sees Naruto and doesn't know whether to smile or frown. His eldest son, Minato, is happy at seeing his boy. He notices his change in attire. He is looking like more of a man. Minato feels a sharp pang of guilt at how he didn't get to see Naruto grow up and mature into this. He didn't intend for things to turn out like this. Kushina sees Naruto and a small smile comes onto her face, though her eyes reflect her true feelings. The realization of the amount of damage she has done to her little boy had brought about a deep feeling of self-loath within her. It took a while for her to be able to look at him without thinking about breaking down. On some nights Minato had to comfort her to sleep, but she is determined to right the wrong she has committed. She will rebuild her family. Yayoi is off towards Naruto as soon as he comes into view. She has been desperately trying to connect with her older brother for the past 3 years. When she was younger, she used to make fun of him and convinced all the kids at the academy not to play with him. She would even pull pranks and everyone would blame Naruto. She was younger then and foolish. She acknowledges that. She just wants to be his sister again. She realizes he isn't wearing his headband. Oh no, did he fail? Menma sees Naruto approaching and resists scoffing. He honestly makes him sick. Naruto has always been and will always only ever be good for ruining everything. Like the family were planning on going out to celebrate Menma, Mito and Yayoi graduating from the academy with flying colors when their parents had demanded they wait for their big brother. Menma didn't understand it. They had never done that before. Naruto was always left out of everything. What was so different now? Menma sees Naruto approaching and resists scoffing. He honestly makes him sick. Naruto has always been and will always only ever be good for ruining everything. Like the family were planning on going out to celebrate Menma, Mito and Yayoi graduating from the academy with flying colors when their parents had demanded they wait for their big brother. Menma didn't understand it. They had never done that before. Naruto was always left out of everything. What was so different now? He notices the blonde is not wearing his headband. I knew it, he thinks, smirking. Mito simply looks on indifferently. She is impartial about Naruto. He is, for all intents and purposes, a stranger to her. She knows that her parents feel guilty about neglecting Naruto, but they have tried to reconnect with him only for him to shut him out. She knows that he is dead last in their generation, but he only has himself to blame for that. He turned down the opportunity to train with them. He also cultivated a reputation for troublemaking for himself. What can you do for someone like that? All in all, she cares little for him, or at least that is what she tells herself. Naruto sees Yayoi coming. At first he thinks about sidestepping and letting her fall, but decides against it. Yayoi jumps on Naruto, hugging him tight. Big brother, she looks him over. Did you pass? She asks. No, he didn't. Are you surprised? Menma says, smirking. All eyes fall on Naruto, who takes out his headband and straps it around his head. Congratulations Naruto. I'm proud of you, Minato says, beaming. Naruto nods and bows. Thank you, Lord Hokage, he says, simply making Minato wince at how he doesn't call him his father. Naruto moves to end the conversation before it can go further. I'll be seeing you all later, he says, turning, brushing Yayoi off and leaving. Kushina looks down in sadness. She feels Minato's arm wrap around her. Give him some time, Kushina. He'll come around. Minato comforts. Right guys, what do you say we go out and celebrate? Minato says. What about big brother Naruto? Yayoi asks sadly. Your brother wants to be left alone right now, Kushina says. Naruto's training ground. Naruto opens his eyes and looks up. The light of the crescent moon and the stars is shining down. He came here to meditate a few hours ago after escaping his family. I did it, Akasada-sensei, he says. Naruto gets up and starts walking home. Now things are going to start changing. Naruto feels a familiar chakra signature approaching. A figure flies past in the trees towards the village gates. With Mizuki. Mizuki is speeding towards the village exit. Under his arm is a large scroll. This is the Forbidden Scroll of Seals. Mizuki is heading to the village gates, intent on delivering it to his master. This was not the original plan. The plan was for the demon brat to fail to graduate so Mizuki could fool him and tell him he could earn extra credit by bypassing security and getting the scroll. However, things didn't go according to plan. The demon brat actually passed. Mizuki realized that the little rat had been hiding his ability this whole time. Thus he was forced to steal it himself, leading to the current situation. He realizes someone is tailing him and drops down to the forest floor. Naruto jumps down and is faced with his academy instructor Mizuki. "Well, if it isn't the fox brat of the hidden leaf," Mizuki says with a vile smirk on his face. Naruto stands there, not the least bit fazed by these words. "You're not on active field duty. Why are you attempting to leave the village? Whoa, big shot. Just cause you got lucky and graduated you think you can boss people around now," Mizuki responds. Naruto had been compelled by a feeling deep within to follow after him. His eyes dart to the scroll in his arm. "Oh, you wanna know what this is? This, little rat, is the forbidden scroll of seals," he says, shocking Naruto. "I was just on my way to deliver it to my master, Lord Orochimaru," he continues, shocking Naruto even more. Orochimaru is one of the 3 legendary Sannin and a former student of the 3rd. He was one of the candidates considered for the position of 4th Hokage, but most importantly he is the biggest traitor in the history of the Hidden Leaf. Why is Mizuki working with him? Naruto doesn't know, neither does he care. Mizuki is a traitor. That is all he needs to know. You're probably wondering why I'm telling you all this. Well, it's because you're about to be dead, he shouts, taking the Fuma Shuriken off of his back and sending it hurtling towards Naruto. He stood there not moving. Just as the Shuriken appears to be centimeters away from cutting Naruto in half, he releases a burst of wind-style chakra, sending it right back at Mizuki, who has to jump into the air to avoid it. Mizuki suddenly feels the wind knocked out of him as Naruto, out of nowhere, kicks him in the back, sending him crashing into the earth. What? How is he so fast? Mizuki inwardly says, shocked. He tries to get up from his knees but is sent flying through the air into a tree from a kick to the side, which fractures his ribs. Mizuki can do nothing as Naruto weaves through hand signs and shouts, "Water style, drilling bullet jutsu." A jet of water emerges from Naruto's mouth and smashes into Mizuki, sending him right through the tree, breaking it. He flies for a few meters before crashing unceremoniously onto the ground. He is out cold. Naruto walks up to him and ties him up with ninja wire. If Mizuki hadn't underestimated him, that wouldn't have been so easy. He still would have won, but it wouldn't have been so easy. He thinks back on everything that has led to this point. He looks up. "One step closer," he says before teleporting away. The last few days have been particularly busy for Minato. All 4 of his children had graduated from the academy. On the night of the day they were promoted to Genin, it had occurred that a Chunin Academy instructor, one of the 2 who had been teaching him, had stolen the forbidden scroll of seals and attempted to leave the village. Mizuki had come very close to making away with the scroll and all the forbidden jutsu within, and would have done so had it not been for a certain shinobi. Mizuki had been attacked and stopped by a mystery shinobi and left tied up for the Anbu to apprehend. For the past few days he had been interrogated about why he had stolen the scroll and who took him down before he could leave with it, but to no avail. Some, of the few who knew, had dismissed it as the actions of a power-hungry fool, but Minato is not so sure. Mizuki is just a Chunin. Surely no matter how much of a fool he is, he would have realized there is nothing a shinobi of his caliber could do with a scroll containing such jutsu. This leads Minato to the conclusion that someone tasked him with it. But who? An enemy village? Rogue shinobi? The Hidden Stone had been itching to get revenge since the war ended, but the memory of Kanabi Bridge ensured that the very mention of his name struck a terrible fear into them. The Hidden Cloud is a very militaristic village, and the current Raikage is on a mission to make the village the most powerful in the elemental nations. Though with their failed attempted kidnapping of the Hyuga clan head's firstborn daughter occurring only a few years ago, perhaps they wouldn't be so brazen. Rogue shinobi? Was it perhaps the criminal shinobi organization that Jiraiya had informed him of and that Itachi Uchiha was reported to have joined? Whatever the case, Minato knew this should be treated with the utmost seriousness. He had had Ibiki and Anko handle the matter, but when they failed, surprisingly, he had Inoichi attempt to extract the needed information. To his shock, the Yamanaka clan head failed as well. After some investigation, it was discovered there was a seal on the shinobi's brain that acted as a lock to his memory. The seal wasn't a problem for someone like Minato, however it is outfitted with a fail-safe mechanism that ensures that should it be broken, Mizuki's brain will be destroyed before any information can be retrieved. This is worrying to Minato. Although this did confirm his suspicion that Mizuki was working for someone, and someone powerful, but who? Minato was just thankful that the scroll was recovered. Now if only he knew who was responsible. He understands Mizuki not revealing his master, but why not reveal who stopped him? Perhaps this is another individual within the village who was working with him who ended up deciding against handing over the scroll and betrayed Mizuki, and now the Chunin is protecting this person for fear that they will tell all there is to know about the plot. Minato is very disappointed in how the scroll was even able to be stolen in the first place. Security around the tower has been tightened as a result. When Danzo gets word of this, he won't hear the end of it. But that is not the matter of importance Minato is handling right now. Sitting across from Minato is a man who appears to be a shinobi himself. 2 scars can be seen on the right side of his face. He has dark hair tied into a spiky ponytail, dark eyes and a goatee beard. He is wearing only a mesh shirt underneath his dark green flak jacket and what appears to be a deer skin coat over this. Besides this, his outfit is the standard one for a shinobi of the Hidden Leaf. This is none other than the Jonin commander of the Hidden Leaf, and by far its most skilled tactician and sharpest analytical mind, the Nara clan head, Shukaku Nara. Currently the pair is discussing the team arrangement of the newly promoted generation of shinobi of the Hidden Leaf, which contains their children. So Minato, how do you feel about this lineup? Shukaku asks, not referring to the village leader by his appropriate title. Well, there are a lot more assault squads, Minato observed. There was only one team completely devoted to tracking and that was pretty much it. Shukaku nodded at this. True, there are, but there isn't a shortage of tracking and espionage personnel within the village. It is to be expected. This is what many people in the village looked at this generation as being destined for. Minato adopted a thinking pose. There hasn't been a group of individuals with this much hype surrounding them in a while. The notion that one needs to be from a shinobi clan to be talented is ridiculous to Naruto. He himself has no clan background, though they are quite the promising bunch. Alright, I'll give it my approval, Minato says. He is hopeful of this generation, and along with this new batch of shinobi, new Jonin senseis would be coming in. Kushina would be coming out of retirement and an old friend of his would be taking up teaching as well. Shukaku leaves Minato's office as the Hokage turns his seat to look over the village. He is deep in thought once again. Time skip, days later. The academy, Iruka's classroom. Naruto is sitting in the corner of the classroom as usual. He was meditating a while ago. He likes meditating because it sharpens his senses and calms him. As more Genin trickled into the room, the level of noise rose until he could no longer concentrate. So now he is just thinking. It's been exactly a week since he was promoted. He is here to meet the team he was assigned to and his new sensei. It has also been a week since he stopped Mizuki. The blonde is thinking about what Mizuki said. My master, Orochimaru, he had said. From all the research he had conducted on Orochimaru in the past week, Naruto had been able to assess that he was a very power-hungry individual, so his attempt to acquire the Forbidden Scroll of Seals shouldn't be surprising. Naruto realizes he has put himself in a bit of a predicament. He wants to notify the Hokage of Orochimaru's involvement, but that would mean exposing himself. He isn't quite ready to do that yet. He does plan on finally revealing his true strength, but not so soon. He isn't worried about Mizuki ratting him out. He knows how deep some people's hate for him runs. Mizuki won't want the demon fox brat to be recognized as a hero for taking him down. Naruto has his hood up and his head down, but he can still feel a pair of eyes on him. There are 4 people who make a habit of watching him in the class. Yayoi and Iruka haven't arrived yet. He deduces from the positioning that this is Sasuke Uchiha. It isn't surprising to him. He does this quite a bit. Ever since Naruto was attacked by Itachi 3 years ago, Sasuke has made a habit of discreetly examining him. He had heard the raven-haired boy had suffered a similar attack at the hands of his older brother. Naruto had observed the behavioral changes that resulted from this. Before the Uchiha massacre, Sasuke had been a confident, energetic boy, but after he became more cold and reserved. Naruto detects 4 chakra signatures approaching the classroom, 3 of them closer than the 4th. He lifts his head, takes off his hood and sits up straight with his arms crossed. Not long after, in walk the Princesses of the Hidden Leaf, and the Prince of the Hidden Leaf. Menma, Mito and Yayoi are dressed in their usual attire. Menma is wearing a red jacket with a black flame motif along the bottom and along the end of the sleeves with the zip left open. Beneath this he is wearing a white shirt with the kanji for fire on the front. He is also wearing black pants and blue shinobi sandals. His headband is strapped around his head, keeping the bangs of his shaggy hair out of the way, but only a bit. Mito is wearing a red, open front battle dress. It ends just above the knees, and underneath this she is wearing short tights and blue shinobi sandals that reach just mid-calf. Her long red hair is tied in a ponytail that reaches her mid-back. She is also wearing blue wristbands. Her headband is strapped around her waist. Yayoi is wearing a pair of tight blue shorts underneath which she is wearing mesh pants that reach her ankles. She is also wearing blue sandals and a midriff white top that exposes her belly button. As always, her hair is tied in pigtails and her headband is strapped around her neck. The arrival of the hero trio of the Hidden Leaf earns swoons and murmurs from their respective fan clubs. Menma, you're here, look at him, he's so cool, Yayoi is so hot, Mito, marry me, she's incredible. The three walk into the classroom behaving completely oblivious to the shouts and murmurs. They have gotten used to this sort of treatment. They walk to their seats and sit down, Menma high-fiving Kiba. Man, they can't get enough of you, Kiba compliments. What can I say, I'm irresistible, Menma brags. Mito smiles and greets her friends. Hi Mito, greets Hinata. Hey Hinata, Kaori, you ready? She asks. The two nod. Yayoi, meanwhile, is with Mito, Kaori and Hinata but is not paying attention to them. She is looking to the back of the class at Naruto. Naruto realizes that Yayoi is looking at him but he is behaving obliviously to this. He hadn't lifted his head to see these three but rather for Iruka who should be arriving any second now. Hey Yayoi. Yayoi sighs in an exasperated manner. She turns her head to see Kiba standing in front of her. How are you? Kiba asks. It is no secret that Kiba is infatuated with Yayoi. Members of the blonde girls fan club begin to protest. The Inuzuka dares them to do something. Right, Iruka shouts walking in. Quiet down. Kiba sit down. No one listens and it looks as if a fight is about to break out. Iruka sighs before performing his big-headed jutsu. Shut up, he yells. There is silence. Kiba finally sits down. Right now, first of all, I would like to congratulate Menma Uzumaki Namikaze and Sasuke Uchiha for tying for Rookie of the Year, he says, causing applause to erupt throughout the room, particularly from the two boys' fangirls. Sasuke displayed his trademark scowl while Menma smirked cockily. And I would also like to congratulate Satsuki Uchiha and Mito Uzumaki Namikaze for tying for top kunoichi, he says, causing another eruption of applause to occur, this one laced with whistles. Yayoi is clapping happily. She would have tied with Mito and Satsuki but they had bested her on accuracy and theory. Menma had bested both her and Mito on physicality. Mito is looking at Satsuki out of the corner of her eye. I will. Satsuki glances at Mito who is looking at her and simply looks back at Iruka, causing Mito to clench her fist and grit her teeth. So with that out of the way, it's time for all of you to find out your team placements, but before that, Naruto tunes Iruka out, knowing the Chunin is giving another of his long-winded speeches. He wonders who is going to be teamed with. He would prefer anyone to his siblings. The advantage of being perceived as the dead last is that he would likely be teamed with at least one strong person. He continues to ignore Iruka. Years of tuning out Akasada when he was rambling or bragging had allowed him to develop this skill. He continues to ignore Iruka until he sees him look down to the clipboard in his hands. Right, the following are the squads you are all assigned to. Naruto listens but isn't really interested until the notable genin begin being named. Team 7 will consist of Menma, Mito and Yayoi Uzumaki Namikaze, the three grown at their luck. Even on duty they can't get away from each other. I'm going to give Dad a piece of my mind, they all inwardly say at the same time. Your sensei will be Kushina Uzumaki Namikaze, Iruka continues with a surprised look on his face. The three siblings are shocked. They were not expecting their mother to be their sensei. Murmurs of protest fill the room. Many are about how three of the strongest kids are on the same team family, and how it is unfair, while many are also the cries of members of the three's respective fan clubs. Ino has tears streaming down her face and Sakura is smirking. There, Ino. You never really had a chance in the first place. I mean, only true love can prevail. Team 8 will consist of Kiba Inuzuka, Hinata Hyuga and Shino Aburame. Your Jonin senseis will be Kurenai Yuhi. Iruka continues. Team 9 is currently active. Team 10 will consist of Sakura Haruno, Shikamaru Nara and Choji Akimichi. Nu, Sakura cries, throwing herself on the floor while Ino laughs loudly at her. Ha, I may not be on the same team as Menma but at least I'm not stuck with those two hopeless sacks, Ino says, pointing at Choji and Shikamaru. Choji raises an eyebrow while Shikamaru looks on with his trademark bored expression. What a drag, he says. Iruka's sweat drops at this behavior. Ino continues laughing at her best friend who is still laying on the floor and hasn't recovered from her shock. Shut up, Iruka shouts for the second time. Sorry Iruka-sensei, Ino says, blushing embarrassedly. Iruka shakes his head irritably. Team 11 will consist of Sasuke Uchiha, Kaori Hirota and Hisateru Hagawara. Your Jonin sensei is Kakashi Hitaki. And finally Team 12 will consist of Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze, Satsuki Uchiha and Ino Yamanaka. Your Jonin sensei will be Fugaku Uchiha. This causes the eyes of the only two Uchiha in the classroom to widen in shock. "You will wait here for your Jonin senseis to arrive," Iruka says. Not long after this, Kurenai Yuhi arrives and picks up Team 8. Naruto is not surprised by the team lineups. Of course, Menma, Mito and Yayoi are on the same team. Training the village heroes was of the utmost importance after all. He is a bit surprised by the decision not to rebuild the Ino Shika Cho formation. The placement of the Uchiha makes sense. They've both been assigned to teams on which they have senseis who will be able to train them in the use of the Sharingan. As for him and the team he had been assigned to, well, from what he knew, Fugaku Uchiha is the head of the Uchiha clan and the father of Itachi Uchiha. He is known and feared throughout the shinobi world as Fugaku of the Wicked Eye for his prowess with the Sharingan, another one of the legends born during the Third Shinobi World War. He is yet another candidate who was considered for the role of Hokage. He is quite excited to be assigned to such a strong shinobi. Naruto doesn't know much about Ino. She is the heiress to the Yamanaka clan and the daughter of the clan's leader, Inoichi Yamanaka. She is Sakura Haruno's best friend and has a crush on Menma. That is pretty much all he knows. He isn't too sure about her. It seems to him like her eyes haven't been opened to the cold realities of the shinobi world. And then of course there is. Satsuki has been watching him out of the corner of her eye. Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze. Before, the only thing that made him of any concern to her was the fact that he was Mito's brother, and even then they didn't seem close, so she didn't know much about him. And then that terrible night came. The night that robbed her of the one person she adored, admired and trusted most besides her mother. The night that took her twin from her. She remembers waking up, hoping and praying it was all a nightmare. It wasn't. She remembers finding out he had been through something similar. She thought about reaching out to him, but she didn't even know him. And besides, she could never reach out to anyone again after that. Now she is on the same team as him. Well, it doesn't matter. She just has to focus on getting stronger. Ino sighs exasperatedly. She isn't on Menma's team. Well, at least Sakura can't rub it in her face because she isn't on Sasuke's team. She knows Satsuki a bit, or at least she thinks she does. She used to be friendly and got along with everyone. Then she changed. This was the same time Sasuke changed. It was after their brother supposedly massacred their clan. Naruto, on the other hand, is a complete mystery to her. He is quiet and doesn't talk to anyone. She remembers even from a young age he was treated differently from his siblings. The people of the village didn't look at him the same because of what he held within him. He would get made fun of by all the other kids, and Yayoi and Menma would encourage the other kids to stay away from him. Many of her friends would encourage her to stay away from him. Some of her elder fellow clansmen would say the same, and her father would then say that he is a normal boy and that Ino should befriend him. Arguments between them were the result of this. This led Ino to follow the common belief that Naruto was a troublemaker and to stay away from him, or sometimes even ridicule him. Now she is on the same team as him. This should be interesting. A man enters the classroom. He has brown hair that reaches his shoulders and onyx-colored eyes with visible creases below them. He is wearing the standard Jonin flak jacket along with a black shirt with the symbol of the Uchiha clan on the shoulders, shin guards, and a black open front apron with a white diamond design along the bottom. Team 12, follow me. The man revealed to be Fugaku Uchiha says in a stern tone before turning and leaving. Naruto gets up and heads down the stairs, behaving obliviously to the watching eyes. He walks past Menma, Mito, and Yayoi's desk. Yayoi is looking at him with a sad look on her face. Mito, as always, pays him no mind, and Menma is glaring daggers at him. He walks out of the classroom for the last time and turns to see a woman approaching. Kushina. She is wearing the standard hidden leaf Jonin attire. Her headband is strapped around her head and her red hair is tied in a ponytail. Naruto, she says with a smile on her face. Lady Kushina, he responds, bowing with a blank look on his face, and walking off, leaving behind a very sad-looking Kushina. Naruto takes some time to study his teammates. Satsuki is dressed in a skirt that is above the knees. The skirt has a slit that goes down the right thigh, which is wrapped in bandages, which allows her to draw her kunai from its holster. She is also wearing black knee-high shinobi sandals. On her upper body she is wearing a dark blue long-sleeve midriff top that exposes the shoulders and bears the crest of the Uchiha clan on the back. Her jet black hair is cut above the shoulders and kept out of the way of her heart-shaped face. Ino has fair skin, blue eyes and platinum blonde hair that she wears in a ponytail that extends to her waist, with bangs that frame the right side of her face. Ino is wearing a purple outfit consisting of a high-collar blouse and a matching apron. She has bandages on her abdomen and legs. She is wearing white arm warmers with a purple trim, and her headband is worn as a belt. Training Ground 12. Naruto, Satsuki and Ino are all sitting in front of Fugaku, who is sitting atop one of 3 wooden stumps. The group have introduced each other to one another and told of their likes, dislikes, hobbies, etc. Naruto ensured he gave away as little as possible. Naruto doesn't consider himself to be dense. Fugaku grew up alongside Minato. The two are close friends. He knows that one of the main reasons he is on Fugaku's team is because the Hokage trusts him and has most likely assigned him to a long-term mission to observe him and analyze him. Alright then, now it's time for you to take your graduation test. What do you mean? Ino asks. We've already been promoted. Not really, Fugaku replies. That was only a means of weeding out those truly capable of being shinobi. And this is a means of acquiring the best out of those capable. Naruto isn't surprised, just as he suspected, so let's not waste any time. Fugaku says, taking 2 items out of his pocket. One is a stopwatch, the other is a pair of bells joined by a red string. The test is you each have to get one of these bells from me in order to pass. As you've observed, there are only 2 bells. So the 2 out of the 3 of you who get a bell will pass and be declared genin, and the odd one out will be sent back to the academy to repeat a year. There will be a time limit of 1 hour. Failure to acquire a bell within that time will also constitute failure. Fugaku says, setting the stopwatch. He hooks the bells to his belt. Any questions? No good. Your time starts now. Immediately Satsuki and Ino jump away from the clearing. Naruto simply stands there staring at Fugaku. You're not going into hiding like the others. I'm not surprised. Your file did indicate you weren't the sharpest knife in the proverbial toolbox, Fugaku challenges. Naruto crosses his arms, not taking the bait. There's no point to it. A shinobi of your caliber would be able to determine my location easily no matter where I hid, he replies. He's actually lying. If he wanted to, he could hide his presence from Fugaku. He just doesn't want to hide. Fugaku smirks. An astute observation. Meanwhile with Satsuki. Satsuki is tense. She is hiding in a tree looking down at Naruto and Fugaku, who are having small talk. By the end of today, someone will have failed and been sent back to the academy. She has to make sure it isn't her. As long as she gets to keep her headband, it doesn't matter what else happens. Pissed, Satsuki, Ino says, causing the Uchiha girl to jump in fright and whip around with a kunai in hand. Why are you sneaking up on me? What do you want? Satsuki hisses. Listen, we're up against a jonin here. We can't go in on our own. If we work together and use all opportunities presented, we can get those bells, Ino says. Oh yeah, and what about him? Satsuki asks, gesturing to Naruto. He's the dead last. He's hopeless anyway. Let's just focus on the bells, Ino says. Satsuki nods in agreement. So how do we go about it? Ino asks. Well, he's distracted by Naruto right now. We can capitalize on that. Ino nods. You go in and cover me. Once I give the signal, get out of the way. I'm going to use my clan jutsu to gain control of his body. Then the bells will be ours, Ino says. Satsuki nods and they prepare to put their plan into action. With Fugaku and Naruto, there is complete silence. Naruto is still standing there just staring at Fugaku. Why isn't he attacking? Fugaku asks inwardly. He's stalling. Well, if he won't take the initiative, I will, Fugaku decides. However, he cannot, as he whips around to block a punch from his daughter. Fast, he observes. Satsuki aims a kick at Fugaku's midsection. He blocks and pushes her back. Satsuki doesn't relent and goes on the offensive once again, aiming a right hook at his face, but he parries it away. She goes low and attempts a leg sweep, but he jumps up and back. Satsuki is growing frustrated. He hasn't thrown a single attack at her. Does he think she's too soft? She'll show him. Fugaku stands with his arms behind his back. This is much too easy. Her interceptor fist is incomplete without the Sharingan, which he isn't even using right now. Satsuki weaves through some hand signs before shouting, Fire style, Fireball Jutsu. Satsuki breathes out a fireball the size of a small house that careens at Fugaku. He raises his eyebrow at this. She is using this jutsu against him. The fireball seemingly engulfs Fugaku. Satsuki doesn't let her guard down. When the fire dissipates, nothing is left where Fugaku was. She whips around to receive a backhand that sends her reeling back. He stands there with his arms behind his back once again. A shrill whistle echoes throughout the clearing. Satsuki dives to one side, allowing Fugaku a clear view of Ino, who has her hands in a triangle formation. Mind transfer jutsu, she shouts. Her consciousness leaves her body, making a beeline for Fugaku. Unfortunately for her, he recognizes this jutsu and sidesteps. Fugaku finds himself flying through the air from a kick to the side of the face from Naruto. He skids to a halt by putting his feet back on the ground. His suspicions were correct. Naruto had been lying in wait for his teammates to attack without him so he could use them as a distraction. Naruto suddenly appears behind Fugaku aiming a chop at his neck, but the Uchiha clan head whips around and grabs Naruto's hand. "He's fast. Amazingly strong too," observes Fugaku. Naruto continues his assault, attempting a spinning kick which Fugaku kneels to avoid. He is forced to jump out of the way as the blonde brings his foot down on the ground where Fugaku was kneeling, causing a spider web of cracks to appear in the ground from the impact. Fugaku skids to a halt. Satsuki is shocked. How is this possible? The dead last is fighting her father, an elite shinobi, on equal ground. What is going on? Fugaku asks himself. Naruto is supposed to be the dead last of his generation, and yet here he is displaying Jonin-level speed and strength. Clearly the Academy's files were mistaken. He's been hiding his strength. Fugaku says to himself, a smirk appearing on his face. Naruto is smiling as well. He is trying his best not to look giddy with excitement. He hasn't had a fight this good since Akasada. Alright, I've entertained myself enough for now, he says inwardly. He weaves through hand signs before shouting, water style, tidal wave jutsu. A large wave of water rushes at Fugaku. He used a water style jutsu like that without a bodies of water. He must have a strong affinity to it, he observes. The man weaves through hand signs of his own. Fire style, dragon flame jutsu. A humongous dragon made of fire emerges from Fugaku's mouth. The two jutsu collide and a battle for dominance ensues. Neither budges and then both dissipate and steam fills the clearing. The steam eventually clears, and when it does, Fugaku is standing alone in the clearing, the three kids gone. With Naruto. Naruto is jumping through the trees. He has Ino held in one arm and Satsuki in the other. He hops down and onto the forest floor once he is sure they are far enough from their opponent. Satsuki pushes herself out of his arm. "Let go of me," she shouts, pushing herself off of him, blushing madly. "Why did you pull me away?" she asks angrily. Naruto looks at her blankly. "You were losing," he replies calmly. He lays Ino down on the floor. Her eyes flutter and open slowly. "Ino, are you alright?" Naruto asks. She groans. "The jutsu didn't work. Listen, our opponent is an elite jonin. There is no point in attacking him like this," Naruto says, having figured the meaning of the test out. He looks to Ino. "Your jutsu left you in an extremely vulnerable position. He was familiar with it and was able to dodge it. You were wide open," he says, causing Ino to look down and frown. He turns to Satsuki. "You used the interceptor fist of the Uchiha clan, so one could say you're at the biggest disadvantage of all. The man we're facing is the head of the Uchiha clan. He knows the ins and outs of that fighting style, all its strengths and weaknesses. He's much more proficient in it than you," Naruto states, making Satsuki angry. She is aware of how she is at a big disadvantage facing her father of all people. "You can't hope to face him using fire-style jutsu either. All of that leaves just me. I'm our best bet," he says. Satsuki resists a scoff. "It's not me being cocky. It's a fact. He's never seen my fighting style before and he doesn't know of the jutsu I have in my arsenal. I will be the cover. I'll go in and fight him head on, and when the opportunity presents itself you will attempt to grab the bells." Naruto says. "Oh yeah, and have you forgotten there are only 2 bells?" she asks. They all look at each other. "Don't worry about that. You just focus on getting those bells. At this rate none of us will pass," Naruto says. He stands up. "Wait for my signal," he says. With Fugaku. Fugaku is standing in the clearing with his arms crossed. He is waiting for a move to be made. He had pretty much shrugged off Satsuki. He knows how she fights. It was foolish of her to attack him head on like that. Inoki's girl had teamed up with her and tried to use her clan's jutsu, but unfortunately for her he recognizes it from his younger days. But it was Naruto who really surprised him. The boy is incredibly fast and strong. He also doesn't recognize his fighting style. He is interested to see what else he has up his sleeve. Naruto drops down from a nearby tree. He walks a few steps and stops. "Back for round 2, huh?" Fugaku says with an uncharacteristic smile on his face. Naruto flashes a smile of his own. This is going to be fun. He weaves through some hand signs. "Fire style, huh? Well, give this a try. Wind style, wind orb barrage jutsu." Balls of wind style chakra emerge from his mouth and head straight for Fugaku. He leaps out of the way and blocks the fist that comes at his face. The real Naruto meanwhile is standing not too far away. "Clone explosion jutsu," he yells. Fugaku's eyes widen as the Naruto who is in front of him begins to glow a white color. There is a huge explosion. Dirt and smoke rises into the air. Naruto whips around and jumps back as Fugaku narrowly misses him with a kick. Substitution Jutsu. While in midair he whips out some shuriken and throws them down at the Uchiha, but he takes out a kunai and parries the incoming projectiles away. Naruto doesn't give Fugaku any resting time. As soon as he touches the ground he speeds forward. Fugaku puts his kunai up as Naruto suddenly appears in front of him and tries to cut him, only to be blocked. Naruto, who is holding the one kunai in a reverse grip, whips out another with his left hand and aims for Fugaku's midsection, only for Fugaku to block with another kunai. The two smirk at each other, but Fugaku realizes his kunai are being dented. He looks at Naruto's kunai. They are coated in chakra. Wind style. He jumps back as Naruto slashes at him. Naruto holds his hands next to his side. His hair begins to blow as wind-style chakra begins to gather. Fugaku sees a ball of concentrated wind-style chakra gather in Naruto's hands. Can't dodge while you're in midair, he says to himself. Wind-style, godly wind from the mountain jutsu, he shouts, releasing the ball, firing it right at Fugaku. Fugaku curses. He holds his hand in a cross-hand seal, to Naruto's surprise. Shadow clone jutsu. A clone forms in midair next to Fugaku. It grabs Fugaku and throws him out of the way, taking the full brunt of the attack. The ball hits the clone and a large explosion is the result. Yet again dust and dirt is kicked up. Once it clears, Fugaku is standing with a few cuts to his right arm. That was close. Naruto wastes no time. He suddenly appears behind Fugaku and wraps his arms around the Uchiha leader. Fugaku tries to force himself out, but it is of no use. He's too strong. Satsuki, Ino now. Naruto shouts. Satsuki and Ino, who have been watching all of this in shock, leap from the trees and run straight at Fugaku. Fugaku breathes in and, even with his hands restrained, blows out a fireball that forces the two girls to leap out of the way. Fugaku, however, can do nothing about the clone that comes out of the ground with a kunai in hand. It cuts the red string, grabs both bells and leaps back. It's over, the clone shouts, lifting the bells in the air just as the stopwatch sounds signaling that time is up. Naruto lets go of Fugaku. Naruto walks past to the clone, who hands the bells to him and disappears in a cloud of smoke. He then hands the bells to Satsuki and Ino, to their shock. Well then, it looks like. You all pass, he says, shocking Ino and Satsuki but not Naruto, who had already figured out the meaning of the test. The true purpose of this test was to determine whether you would selfishly look out for yourselves or work as a cohesive unit regardless of the outcome. I see one of you figured it out, he says, looking at Naruto, smiling. Ino and Satsuki look at Naruto as well with eyes full of wonder and disbelief. They look down guiltily at how they left him out before. We're sorry, Naruto, Ino says. Yeah, Satsuki says to him. He nods. It's fine. I understand, he responds. A great team is born from members who give everything for each other instead of for themselves. From this moment onwards you are all fully fledged shinobi of the Hidden Leaf and members of Team 12 Inches, Fugaku declares. Fugaku is walking through the hallways of the top floor of the Hokage Tower, his destination being the man's office himself. He is on his way to a meeting with the Hokage and the other Jonin senseis who were holding graduation tests today to give his report. He touches his right cheek that Naruto's foot connected with. He chuckles a bit. He had assured Minato that for Fugaku of the Wicked Eye there was no such thing as rust, and yet here he's allowed himself to get hit by a kid. A very strong kid, but a kid nonetheless. He walks up to the office door and enters without knocking. He walks up to stand in front of the desk at the end of a long line of other Jonin senseis. There is silence. 2 minutes pass. Kakashi arrives afterwards. My apologies for. I find it redundant to apologize for something you're just going to do again, Minato says, cutting him off. Now that we're all here, let's get started. Going in numerical order, please make your reports on how your teams did. Minato says. The first half of the Jonin senseis give their reports and half of the teams have failed. This is to be expected. The first graduation exam is only a decoy and not an accurate measure of one's aptitude to shinobi life. All heads turn to Kushina. Team 7 passed. They did quite well. Their teamwork is very good, but that's to be expected, she says with a smile on her face. Minato smiles at hearing this. Kurenai then gives her report. Team 8 passes, though there are some blemishes. Kiba Inuzuka makes attempts to assert his dominance over his teammates. Hinata Hyuga is too shy and struggles to voice her opinion at times. Kurenai reports. Team 10 passed Lord Hokage, but they didn't do very well. Shikamaru and Choji are friends and work well together. However, Sakura is quite difficult. Half the time she is complaining about how she didn't get put on Sasuke Uchiha's team, and the other half she's giving Choji and Shikamaru flack about how one achieved mediocre marks in the academy while the other was lucky not to fail. She needs a serious attitude adjustment, reported Asuma. He is concerned that perhaps the Hokage will live to regret not recreating the Ino-Shika Cho formation. Minato nods at this. He turns to his student. Team 11 passed narrowly, Lord Hokage, Kakashi says, surprising those in the room. He had never passed a single team. Sasuke Uchiha has quite the superiority complex and views his teammates as not being worthy of teaming with him. Hisateru Hagawara repeatedly mocks him and it causes friction within the team. As it stands, Kaori Hirota is the glue that holds the team together, Kakashi says. Minato nods and finally turns to his friend. He manages to hold back a chuckle but can't resist smiling when he sees the bruise on Fugaku's cheek. No rust, huh? Fugaku sees the look on his face and narrows his eyes a bit. Team 12 passed. Satsuki Uchiha is impressive but she seems a bit arrogant in her approach. Wonder where she gets it from, Minato says inwardly in a sarcastic manner. Ino Yamanaka is very distracted. She seems obsessed with Team 7's Menma. He says. This time Minato cannot hold back the chuckle. He is aware of how Inoiki's daughter is infatuated with his son. The real shock, however, Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze, Fugaku continues earning the attention of all in the room. Naruto is no doubt the strongest member of his team, Fugaku says, shocking all in the room. During the test he displayed what was no doubt Jonin-level speed and strength using a taijutsu style I've never seen before. He is the reason I have this bruise, Fugaku says, pointing at his cheek. He used quite a few impressive elemental jutsu and even the shadow clone jutsu to perform a clone explosion jutsu. Not only that, he also displayed impressive leadership skills when he figured out the true meaning of the test and got his teammates to work together to pass, Fugaku finishes. There is complete silence in the room. Everyone is in disbelief. Fugaku Uchiha's praise isn't earned easily and yet here is praising Naruto. The same Naruto who is a supposed dead last and is nowhere near the level of his siblings. Of all the people in the room, none are more shocked than Naruto's parents themselves. I have to get to the bottom of this, Minato says to himself. Alright everyone, thank you. Please inform the rookies on the teams who didn't pass that they are to report to the academy at the beginning of the following year to repeat, assuming they still want to be shinobi, he says, dismissing all the Jonin. All leave except for Fugaku. No rust, huh? Minato asks. Fugaku frowns, give me a break. And cut the small talk. I'm here to make my report. Alright, Minato says, smirking. What is your assessment of Naruto? Minato says, turning serious. The boy's very smart. I'm sure he realizes that I'm watching him. He hasn't given anything away at all. I will continue to observe, Fugaku says. Minato nods. Thank you, Fugaku, Minato says. Fugaku wasn't one to ask questions, so when Minato asked him to do this he did it like any normal mission. Fugaku leaves the office, leaving Minato and Kushina alone. Minato, how is this possible? Kushina asks in disbelief. I don't know, clearly Naruto has been keeping secrets. Let's go home, we'll have to ask him about everything. Minato says. Besides how Naruto could be so strong, what really worries him is why his son would hide his strength. He is proud but he doesn't understand why the boy would want to be recognized as a dead last. He'll find out soon. He gets out of his chair and walks over to his wife. He wraps his arms around her. Speaking of Naruto, Minato, do you mind explaining to me why he wasn't on my team like I asked? She questions with a sickly sweet tone to her voice and a deadly looking smile on her face. Minato gulps. Kushina, we agreed that training Menma, Mito and Yayoi on how to use more of the Nine Tails chakra took priority and I can't have 5 people on one squad. Besides, I trust Fugaku, don't you? He says nervously. She continues to smile. Alright. But you're definitely not getting any sex for a while, Kushina says, causing Minato's eyes to widen. Now let's go home and celebrate. Uzumaki Namikaze estate. Yayoi is hysterical. She has tears streaming down her face. Mito has a blank look on her face. Menma is glaring daggers. Naruto is sitting on one of the couches in the household's living room. Minato and Kushina walk in. Hi everyone, what's going on? Kushina asks, realizing Yayoi is in tears. Menma says nothing. Mito remains silent. Mom, Dad, Big Brother is moving out, she manages to say, her voice trembling. Minato and Kushina see the suitcase and backpack Naruto set down next to him. Minato reels back with shock. Yayoi's words don't quite register at first, but when he sees Naruto's luggage he realizes the severity of the situation. Kushina is in complete shock and disbelief. She can't believe this is happening. Her son is leaving. Why? It's obviously because of her. She did this. Minato's face turns stern. Naruto, why are you moving out? This is your home. We're your family. Where are you going to go? When were you going to tell us any of this? You can't just leave, Minato says authoritatively. Naruto, who has been sitting on the couch looking calm, stands up. I was going to tell you as soon as you got home. You need not concern yourselves with details. And actually, Lord Hokage, I can. I am now a shinobi and therefore legally an adult. Naruto states calmly. He grabs his backpack and slings it over his back. He doesn't owe anyone any explanations. He grabs his suitcase and begins to leave, only to find Kushina is now blocking the exit. You're not leaving, she says in a strong tone. A deadly aura about her, though everyone can tell she is on the verge of tears. Naruto begins to grow frustrated. Please move out of the way, Lady Kushina, he asks, trying not to lose his temper. No, Naruto, listen. I know that we haven't been the best parents to you. I know we haven't been a family to you. I know I haven't been a mother to you. But if you just give us a chance, I'm sure we can make things right. I know the pain we've put you through. No, Naruto shouts, finally losing his temper. Years of pent-up rage finally realizing itself. You have no idea what I've been through. None of you, he continues, turning around. Years. For years I've been treated like some kind of monster for something out of my control. And you weren't even there for me. What do you mean, Naruto? Minato asks, confused. You don't even know. How naive you are, Lord Hokage, he scoffs, the villagers. For as long as I can remember, I've been ostracized and hated by them. At first they weren't so direct because they were scared of what you two would do to them. But after a while they must have realized you didn't care, because when I was around 5 years old it all escalated. The looks, the names, people treating me like some sort of disease. Now given time I could have gotten over that, but what I really struggle to look past is that the people who are supposed to be my family, the people who should have my back when nobody else does, left me out to rot in the cold. Minato is shocked. The villagers did that. But, when? How? Kushina is in tears now. So is Yayoi. Menma and Mito are shocked as well. Well, now I'm done. You've never been anything to me. The best you could do for me is let me go to live my life. Naruto says with finality. He looks to the exit, which Kushina is still blocking. He infuses chakra and in a puff of smoke is gone. As soon as he is gone, Kushina takes off to her and Minato's bedroom crying. She locks herself in and cries hysterically. Her baby boy suffered so much and she wasn't there for him. She just made things worse. Yayoi falls apart, having only Mito for support, who is comforting her. How could she have done this? How could she have locked her own brother out and even tormented him with the amount of pain he was going through? Menma looks on at this scene, seeing everything in complete disarray. He looks to one of his sisters who is falling apart in the other's arms. She leads her away to her bedroom. He looks to the hallway where his mother ran and where his father followed her. He looks down and then clenches his fists and grits his teeth. He punches the wall, causing a spider web of cracks to appear. Curse you, Naruto, I will make you pay for ruining this family, he silently vows. He looks up to reveal his usually purple eyes have turned crimson red and his round pupils are now slits. With Naruto, Naruto is now laying on his bed in his new home, an apartment on the top floor of a building on the north end of the village. He had put a few shadow clones to work to furnish and clean it, and it was all done. He could afford to buy it and many other things because Akasada's life savings was worth millions, but he doesn't want to attract any unwanted attention for now. He stares at the ceiling, deep in thought. It's only begun. A few weeks later. It's been weeks since Naruto moved out of the Uzumaki Namikaze estate. He is very thankful for his sensory ability, as it has stopped him from running into the family on multiple occasions. News spreads fast. Naruto has noticed in recent weeks that the villagers are being more cold towards him, but it's not as if any of it is new to him. His teammates have clearly heard as well. The two females have been giving him strange looks, particularly Ino. Fugaku, thankfully, didn't even show he knew, despite the fact that he obviously did. Things are going well with his new team. They have been working more cohesively than Fugaku had anticipated. Therefore, on some occasions, when not on missions, they worked on team exercises based on a broad range of field simulations based on tracking, assault, espionage, etc. But on other occasions, Fugaku worked with them on a rotational individual schedule. He would spend a day focused on one of them, whilst the other two were given a set of exercises to complete in one half of the day, and then they were to face each other in no-holds-barred combat for the other half of the other day. During this time, you were not permitted to submit to your opponent for any reason. In terms of individual exercises with Satsuki, he has been focusing very much on her strength and power. She is fast, but that isn't enough. He has of course also been making efforts to help her improve her fire-style jutsu and shuriken jutsu. With Ino, he has been helping the girl improve her physical ability in general, as in that respect she is sadly miles behind her teammates. Of course she isn't as physically gifted as them, so Fugaku had decided to teach her some genjutsu as well. Her attitude had somewhat improved, but there is still room for improvement. As for Naruto himself, there really isn't much missing. It has become obvious that he is the strongest of the three. Naruto likes sparring with Fugaku, and his sensei likes the influence he has on his teammates. They have been pushing and motivating themselves to catch up to him, which is very good. Currently Team 12 are in the Hokage's office reporting on their 40th D-rank mission. They had completed more than any other rookie team in the village. This was, besides there being a very cohesive unit, because of the fact that Fugaku was a drill sergeant in the way he worked. He was relentless, and whatever his students gave him he demanded 5 times more of. Congratulations on another successful mission, Team 12 inches, Minato says as a large woman exits his office with a screeching cat in her arms which she is practically smothering to death. That's right, give it to him, Ino inwardly says, living vicariously through the woman. Good riddance to bad rubbish, Satsuki says to herself. Although she can understand why the little beast keeps running away, Naruto looks on, trying not to smile. He almost feels bad for the cat, whose name is Tora. The animal reminds him of himself. Back when Akasada was still alive, he would test Naruto's speed by gathering the fastest lions on Mount Rayon and having them chase after him for the whole day. Team 12 have crossed paths with Tora many times before. Naruto could have ended things fast on each occasion but chose not to, thinking it would do his teammates some good. They are very infuriated by this and have promised him great pain in the future for it. Perhaps not pain on par with what Tora was subjected to, but pain nonetheless. I assume you're here for another mission, Minato says. There is a tense silence. The 3 genin in the room look to their sensei with their eyes narrowed. Fugaku raises his eyebrow and smirks at this. Yes, Lord Hokage. I believe that Team 12 are ready for their first C-rank mission. The minimum requirement has been met and I do believe they're ready. Fugaku says. You're right, your team does qualify for such a mission, Fugaku. I have seen firsthand that they're very capable. They've performed more than any other rookie team within the village so far. Minato says, handing the Uchiha male the scroll outlining the details of the mission. It's a simple escort mission. It shouldn't be much trouble for you, he says. He uses the telephone on his desk to order his secretary to send the client up. Not long after, an elderly man, who smells of sake, wearing spectacles and a large hat, comes in. He looks at Team 12, studying him carefully before finally speaking. This is it. I didn't pay my money for 3 rabbits, he says, wiping the alcohol from his chin. Ino and Satsuki seem insulted while Naruto simply raises an eyebrow. Who gets drunk at this time of day? Fugaku pays the man's words no mind. We'll meet up tomorrow at the village gates at the time we usually meet up at the training grounds. From there we will head out to the land of waves. We'll be escorting and guarding Tazuna while he completes a bridge project for the nation. Pack enough supplies for at least a month, he orders. His students nod at this. Throughout all of this, Minato has been watching Naruto discreetly. Things have changed since Naruto moved out. Yayoi hasn't been her usual bubbly self. Kushina is obviously suffering but is trying to pull herself together so the performance of her team doesn't suffer. Menma has been more irritable too. He admits he himself has been finding it hard to concentrate on work. He is angry at the villagers for letting him down. He is angry at Yayoi and Menma for damaging Naruto's reputation, the former having expressed her regret while the latter didn't seem to care, but most of all he is angry at himself. Angry for allowing any of this to happen. How could he cause his son to go through such pain? He wants to make things right but doesn't know how to go about it. Naruto realizes that he is being watched by the Hokage, and before the man can say a word he leaves the office using a teleportation jutsu, unlike his teammates who use the door. Minato sighs at this. The next day, Naruto is standing in front of the village gates with a backpack slung over his shoulders. Ino and Satsuki are with him. The two seem quite excited and he would be lying if he said he wasn't either. Sai, look at says Kotetsu Hagen, one half of the eternal gate guards of the Hidden Leaf. What I would give to trade places with him, he continues. Stop daydreaming, Kotetsu, and focus on the mission at hand, his friend and the other half of the eternal gate guards, Azumo Kamizuki, reprimands. You call this a mission? Yeah, right, he scoffs. He remembers when they had initially been approached about being gate guards. Regulating who comes in and out of the village is serious business. It's a big responsibility, they had been told. He still can't believe how easily they had been hoodwinked into this. Azumo watches the genin, and though he won't admit it, switching places is a tempting prospect right now. Fugaku arrives alongside Tazuna. Alright, let's not waste any time. Let's head out, Fugaku orders. All the genin nod at this and the group leave, setting out for the land of waves. They walk in relative silence. After a while, Naruto sees a puddle up ahead. Even if it weren't for his sensory ability, this trick wouldn't have been able to fool him. It hasn't rained in weeks. The group continue to walk. Fugaku steps on the puddle, and as soon as he does, chains spring out and wrap around him. The chains pull in opposite directions, ripping him to pieces. The chains retract as two cloaked figures wearing claw-like metal gauntlets emerge. "One down," says one of the two. They run at the rest of the group, poised to attack. Satsuki doesn't let this shock her. She knows her dad, and she knows he's strong. Way too strong to get taken down that easily. She jumps in front of one of the cloaked figures. Ino sees her sensei get ripped to bits and is horrified. He was a jonin, an elite shinobi. If he got taken down, what good would she be? She swallows her fear and resolves to fight, even if certain death awaits. She sees one of the two attackers charge for Satsuki. She weaves through hand signs and casts a genjutsu. Genjutsu, descending hell. Gozu looks up to see a giant fireball coming down from the sky. He quickly breaks out of the genjutsu, scoffing at how weak it is, only to be greeted with a kick to his midsection that sends him back. Satsuki doesn't relent, following up with a kick square in the face before jumping out of the way. Ino finishes off the enemy with an uppercut that knocks him out. Meanwhile, Meizu goes straight for the target, intent on mowing straight through the blonde brat standing in front of him, who hasn't even drawn a weapon or gotten into battle stance. This is going to be too easy. All of a sudden, the kid disappears, giving him a clear shot at Tazuna. He's running away. He laughs loudly as he closes in on the old man, who closes his eyes, preparing himself for his death. Just as Meizu's gauntlet is millimeters away from Tazuna, something suddenly stops him. Naruto appears behind his opponent, grabbing his cloak at his neck. He yanks on it, tossing the cloaked attacker like a ragdoll away from Tazuna with one hand. Meizu hits the ground hard and skids and rolls. He jumps back to his feet, not believing that kid threw him like that. He suddenly hunches over, coughing, as Naruto appears in front of him, kneeing him in the gut. Naruto then raises his hand and chops his opponent on the back of the neck, allowing him to fall to the ground unconscious. Satsuki and Ino finish with their opponent just in time to see Naruto tie his up. They watch in awe as he ties his opponent up with ninja wire. "He's so strong," Satsuki inwardly says, clenching her fist. Ino watches with much the same look. "To think this is the same loser from the academy," she says to herself. Fugaku jumps down from the tree he has been watching this scene unfold from. His team handled themselves well, particularly Naruto. "Sensei," Ino shouts happily, seeing that their sensei is alive and well. She looks across at her teammates and realizes that they already knew. Tazuna looks on in shock. "But, I saw." He looks to where he saw Fugaku get ripped to pieces, only to see pieces of wood on the ground. Substitution jutsu. Sensei replaced himself with an inanimate object and made it appear as if he died, Naruto explains to the confused man. "But, why would you do that?" he asks angrily. "It was for two reasons," he says calmly. "The first was to assess how my team would react in an actual battle situation. You three did well. I'm proud of you," he says, earning smiles from the three. He turns back to Tazuna. "And the second was to determine which one of us they were after," he says, narrowing his eyes, causing Tazuna to gulp. "When Naruto jumped out of the way of the enemy's attack to determine that, my suspicions were confirmed. Tazuna, these two are the demon brothers of the Hidden Mist, Chunin level rogue ninja. Their ambushing us means this is no longer a C-rank mission." "Explain yourself," Fugaku demands in a serious tone, causing Tazuna to gulp once more. Tazuna looks to the genin, desperate for help, but he'll receive no such help from them. He sighs. "Are you familiar with Gato of Gato Industries?" Fugaku recognizes the name. Gato is one of the wealthiest men in the world. He also happens to be one of its biggest criminals, having a criminal empire that spans many nations. Years ago, he came into my country posing as a legitimate businessman who wanted a share in the potential rich economy. But he would soon reveal his true colors. Tazuna proceeds to explain how Gato had conducted a hostile takeover of the nation and how his bridge project was a threat to the crime boss. "I only lied to you because the allotted funds of my people could only pay for a C-rank mission," he says, falling to his knees. "I'm sorry. Please help me. I just want to save my country," he pleads. Fugaku's face softens as he hears the man's story. He adopts a thinking pose. Strictly speaking, he should be on his way back to the village with his team to report this matter to the Hokage, but he can't just hang him out to dry. He turns to his team, making a decision. "We're heading back to the village," says Fugaku, causing shouts of protest to arise, but he quickly silences them. "This mission is no longer ours to complete. I'm not asking. Let's go," he orders.
Hope you enjoyed this fanfiction YF. I have covered quite a few chapters in this part. Let's aim for 100 likes for part 2, and don't forget to go follow and, you know, support the creator. Links in the description below for this fanfiction, and you can continue it on your own if you wanna and don't wanna wait for part 2. And anyways, my darklings, you're all dismissed. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe, and peace.